Yes, you did. What's happening, weirdos? I am so thrilled that one of the funniest people in the world, and certainly one of the best stand-ups in the world, who happens to be in their 20s, which is insane. Taylor Tomlinson is back. This is her second appearance on the show. I'm so glad she came back. Very different from the first one. It was really, really interesting to see how she's grown and evolved, and I'm really excited for you guys to hear it. A couple things to plug up top. I do a monthly stand-up show. I'm sure Taylor is going to be on it very soon. Maybe, I don't know. I'll have to ask her to do this one. August 5th is the next Living at Largo. Go to largo-la.com for tickets to that. It is that what yeah, July, August. That's right, August. Sorry, a little real moment. But if you're listening to this late or watching this late, we do it every month. So just go to largo-la.com. We do it once a month. Come to any show. Judd Apatow. We've had Mulaney did it recently. Amy Schumer. It's been incredible. And it's always fun. Bill Burr did the last one. Come check it out. Go to largo-la.com. I'm also going to be at Montreal just for laughs this year. We're also doing a live You Made It Weird for all our Canadian weirdos. Go to, I believe it's hahaha.com for that. And I'm going to be at Just for Laughs Escapes, which is the Just for Laughs festival in Cancun, Mexico. So check that out if you are going to be or want to take a trip to Cancun to be with me, Craig Robinson, Dane Cook, some really wonderful shows and some live podcasts there as well. Hope to see some vacationing weirdos or just people that live in Mexico. That would be incredible. This podcast is brought to us by our friends at Ned. Ned are the makers of some of the best CBD and CBG products, as well as magnesium and sleep aids that I swear by and are part of my daily ritual. Not just my routine. Routines are boring and mundane, but rituals. These are moments to check in with my body, slow my breath, do an affirmation, and focus on the person I want to be. And Ned is a huge part of that. I take their de-stress blend often at the beginning of the day, because that's when I'm feeling stressed about all the things I have to do. Helps me ease into what I'm about to take on, get into that flow state. And I also, it's multifunctional, take it at the end of the day as a nice way to calm down. It's one of the most important parts I really notice when I don't take it, because the feeling and the effect is definitely palpable. It has the power to shape your entire day. When I take it, I feel amazing and productive, and I really notice that it helps me get into that flow state. At night, I take 2 Ned products. We're like a Ned family. They're Mellow Magnesium. 75% of American adults are deficient in magnesium, which is a mineral essential to hundreds of functions in the body, and it really helps me rest. And their Sleep Blend, which is filled with CBN and botanicals that promote deep and healthy sleep in a science-backed and nature-based way. So much better than a chemical or a pharmaceutical to get me into that deep sleep and wake up feeling refreshed. Ned CBD is cold extracted from the world's purest USDA certified organic hemp in the foothills of the Rocky Mountains. So whatever your need, less stress, better sleep, less inflammation, less pain, Ned has a science-backed, nature-based product for you, and you can show your support of this podcast. So become the best version of yourself and get 15% off Ned products with code WEIRD. Go to helloned.com/weird or enter code WEIRD at checkout. That's HELLONED.com/weird to get 15% off. And thank you, Ned, for sponsoring our show and offering our listeners a natural remedy for some of life's most common health issues. We're also brought to us by this little son of a bitch. What is this? Magic Mind. For those of you watching it, I'm holding it up. This little, I always think of The Witcher. He has those little elixirs that he drinks that turns him into a superhero. This is basically the little elixir that I drink that turns me into a superhero. This is not an energy drink. This is the world's first productivity drink. It has matcha, it has adaptogens. I take it in the morning with my caffeine. So if I'm having a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, I take it with this, and the adaptogens in this ease it out, round out the edges of that sharp caffeine attack, and makes it a more steady and productive feel. It's a mix of 12 functional ingredients, matcha, nootropics, which of course help our brain function, and adaptogens that help you fight off stress. It was created to be taken daily for a sharper mind, steady energy, immune support, and less stress. I can swear by this. You get 30% more done on average, 5 to 7 hours of 30% more productivity after drinking. You just get in a dialed in flow state. You are not wired. You're dialed in. Athletes have Gatorade. Now we have Creatorade. That's my favorite part of the ad. It's my best friend. Try it 15 to 30 minutes before doing a creative project or sitting down to work. You will fall in love, I promise. It fights off procrastination, brain fog, fatigue, and some ADD symptoms and gets you into a flow state. And with a money-back guarantee, any first purchase will be refunded, no questions asked, if it doesn't meet your expectations. And we have a wonderful offer, a special offer for weirdos from the guys at Magic Mind. All you have to do is go to www.magicmind.co/weird and use discount code at checkout WEIRD for a limited 20% off your first offer. No bullshit, guys. I swear by Magic Mind. It is the wonderful secret weapon I use when I'm writing, when I'm podcasting, when I'm doing stand-up, or when I just need to pick me up and a way to focus and dial in. I'm not just saying that. I tried it first, and then we reached out and made a partnership. So I absolutely swear by it. Go to magicmind.co/weird and use discount code WEIRD at checkout for 20% off your first order. Thank you to Magic Mind. All right, everybody. Enjoy my chat with Taylor Tomlinson. I sure did. I hope you do as well. Get into it.
Yeah, me too.
And as a Sobeys, are you Sobe Noodles?
No.
You're not sober?
Oh, I was like, I thought that was a drink. Do you like Sobe noodles? I was like, I don't know what that is. I'm Sobe. I'm Sobe noodles.
Are you Sobe Noodles?
Oh, I've never been drunk. Did we not talk about this the last time?
But so much has happened.
So much. I know you're like, that was pre-COVID. Maybe you lost it.
Can I get that piece of paper with all the writing on it? You're going to laugh at what I wrote down. I took notes during your special.
You did?
But some of them are super fun. Like one of these questions, I'm like, this is something I would love someone to ask me about. You'll see. I'll tell you when we get to it. But you're Sobeys.
Yes. We started, right?
Is that okay?
That's totally fine. I just want to make sure. I just didn't want to.
I mean, I know. You were demonstrably remembered a person.
Yeah, I don't want to be wrong about who owns Liquid Death. That was just something I heard.
Well, God owns it.
But I mean, God owns all of us.
God owns death. Yeah. That was, oh my God, as a former Creesh, perhaps, I mean, I must quote this constantly. I think it's in Jeremiah. It's definitely open in my phone. But there's a verse in the OT. Your joke about the OT made me super jelly. Mine is like, you ever crack the prequel? Go, there's some fucked up shit in the Old Testament. And then I go, sometimes you read it and you go, Jesus, well, not yet. And yours is even better. Everybody's going to have to watch Look at You.
Look at You.
I almost said Look
on
at
Netflix.
Me. It's so good.
Thank you so much.
It's truly
really
the best.
nice.
And I'm so honored that you're here. And thank you for coming.
Oh my God, are you kidding? We had such a funny interaction at the Improv where at the end, I was kind of being a little more fangirly. And you were like, would you do the podcast again? And I was like, absolutely, I'd do the podcast again. And you're like, well, I don't want to bother you. Yeah. And I was like, what are we doing here? What is this?
Well, that was true communique to me.
Yeah.
It's like, I only want to air vulnerabilities. Mm-hmm. We don't have to have a heavy conversation now. I just mean when I run into people, I'm sending out those feelers of going do you overthink stuff too? Because you remember I was like, hey, I saw you at that restaurant. I ran into you at a restaurant. And I didn't want to bother you then. And I did.
So funny.
Well, you were right there. You were right by the entrance. So I kind of felt like we couldn't have, not that I would have. I would have, no matter what, I was going to say hi.
But and then I felt like, oh my God, he feels obligated to say hi. I felt like you and Val walked up and were like, shit, a comedian's here. And I'm going to have to make an appearance. I'm going to have to stop by the manager of this establishment.
You think you're Jeff Ross? Just a Jeff Ross. I tried to think who could handle a burn. Jeff Ross.
I really felt bad when I saw you coming. I was like, man, I hope he doesn't feel obligated.
Well, I love this because to me, I've just been watching so many great things happening for you. But honestly, how many years ago did you do the podcast the first time? It was. I mean, it's got to be 5-6 years. 4.
I'm gonna guess 4.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
But even then, I was very, in awe. So it's not just because you've had like these but these big benchmark moments. But I'm like, Taylor doesn't want to talk to me. I'm like the weird.
That's so funny.
I'm the weird guy.
That's so funny.
Hey, what are you guys ordering? And then, so when I saw you at the Improv and told you that, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like women tend to talk that way more. Like there's that, like, let's name it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I want to name it. And I was like, I saw you and I felt weird. And you're like, I saw you and I felt weird. And then we're like, we can trust each other now.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because Bert Chrysler was there as well. And he was kind of being, he was a man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Bert
Bert's
and I
a total
weren't
man.
like sharing our fears.
Bert would share his fears with you, though.
He would.
Yeah. Bert shares fears.
But I feel even safer with you for some reason.
Well, maybe because Bert is superhuman and he sleeps for 2 hours and then promotes for 4 hours and films a TV show.
Is that true? Is he a super machine?
Oh my gosh, he truly is. Like, it is incredible. We did those baseball stadium tour dates with him, and like, I don't know how he does it. He like does like 3 hours of sleep and then like CrossFit and then like shoots a bunch of videos and does a podcast and then does a whole show and meets all these fans, and you're just like,
wow.
No one. And I have the same team as him. I have the same managers and agents, and they were like so inspired by what he was doing, and they're like, maybe you could. And I'm like, I can't. Don't waste your time. I'm not this. Nobody is this.
Yeah.
Nobody can do this.
Yes.
He is truly and the machine. Like this is not normal. Like, please don't compare me to him.
I'm not just kissing his ass. It doesn't seem unhealthy. Like, he seems like a grounded
No, I think he's
guy.
Superhuman.
Yeah.
I think he truly like...
He's just one of those people that, like another species.
Yeah, he just...
I eat nails.
Right, yeah. Just, I don't know how he does it. I really don't know how he does it.
I don't either, because if I have 2 things in a day...
Exhausted.
In fact...
Dreading it.
Yeah. I'll do 2.
Yeah.
And I'll cancel 3.
Yes.
And one of them is go to lunch with Val. You know what I mean? Like, that's also a thing.
Yes.
It's not like a break. I lunch with Val is my favorite thing. I'm still saying it was a thing I did.
Yeah.
Had to do, meaning I had to drive there.
Yes.
You have to find parking.
You have to talk to someone who isn't Val.
Lots of people who weren't Val that day.
So many people there who aren't Val. Yeah.
I sometimes say that to the audience. I'm like, how did you guys do it? And I actually think a lot of people don't relate to that. That when I go, like, I can't believe we're all here. It's crazy. It's Hollywood. Some people are just walking around going like, wow, like it's virtual reality or something. They're not affected. I can't handle more than 2 things in a day.
Yeah. LA specifically, or you're like amazed anybody went to an event of any kind?
For sure. LA specifically.
Yeah.
Again, a bit I have is you ever drive by those things on Sunset Boulevard, a parking lot, and there's guys in orange reflective vests with coned flashlights. They're going, hey, and they're just like circling, trying to get you to turn in.
Yeah.
I'm always tempted to turn in, even though I'm miles from where I'm I'm just like, these guys, like, I'm so sensitive to all things that super freaks me out. But you're not a Bert, and that's okay.
No one is. There's only one.
There's only one.
I people who are that successful in a way that like he's like creating like a brand. Like he's an experience. Like his fans are his fans. And I could never be that. But if you
were, I wouldn't trust what you like. We were just watching your special this morning, rewatching, loving. And if you were out there just like thoughtlessly, meaning like fearlessly, I guess we could say, just like fearlessly churning out, like you're filming us now,
right?
Like, you know what I mean, or whatever it is. I don't think that would mesh with what you're doing on stage, because I think you're the same thing. Like, there are Tay heads. I don't know.
Sure, let's go with that.
Is that it?
I don't know.
What are they?
They're just people who
Yeah,
like
like
comedy.
you.
They're just nice. Like,
But they want to hear comedy about therapy. They want to hear comedy about self-doubt and loss. That's a different
Bert's like
kind
a rock star.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not like I'm never going to be like a rock star comedian.
Yeah. He's Mentos and Diet Coke.
Yeah.
You're just a Diet Coke.
I'm a LaCroix. Let's be honest. And not a strong one.
You're a pure LaCroix.
Yeah.
You're a warm.
I'm a blue LaCroix.
The blue. I was at a kid's birthday party yesterday, and this is how you know comedians we're our own thing, and I'm only safe with you guys. And I'm drinking a pure LaCroix, and I go, thanks to whoever brought the pure LaCroix. And my friend Ben goes, that was me. And I was just like, great. And then I went on about, it actually was better than I remember. It wasn't that bad. This is what I wanted to open with. I did a spot last night. I really want to hear your feelings on this.
Okay.
I did a spot last night, and it was awesome. It was super fun. Mm-hmm. And then I went to a party, and when we were leaving the party, I said to Val, I was like, going to a party after you've done stand-up is like, what are we doing here? Because you've just done the most condensed. Like I said, I'll just say what I said. I've never done cocaine, but I'm like, you've done a line of social interaction, being with people, having your thoughts heard, and really hearing theirs as well. I mean, I'm adapting and responding to their responses and all that stuff. And then you go to a party and you're just talking to one guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there's a real like, it's like going from the freeway to a surface street. It's like real slow.
It's like going to a parking lot.
It's like going to a...
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going from the fucking German...
Surface Street. I don't know who you're talking to, but you're giving them too much credit.
I'd love to meet a surface street. Most of these motherfuckers are parking lots.
Most of these guys are a fucking cul-de-sac. Yeah. You know what I mean? Just dead ends.
Just looping. You know what you do at a party? Have you ever noticed you just move slowly? Like if you're three people... and you're talking, wait 15 minutes. You're just kind of over here.
Yeah.
And no one remembers giving the order. It's because that's how uncomfortable it is.
We drifted.
You drifted because there's all those moments. It's not like stand-up. Stand-up is perfect. Stories go somewhere. Anecdotes have a reason. There's effort. There's laughter. Everyone knows their roles. You're the laughters. I'm the talker.
Yeah.
Here we're like, everyone's taking turns. And that's why there's this, you shift. Because it's awkward.
Yeah.
Step to the left.
Yeah.
Every 30 seconds, a tiny step to the left.
Yeah.
And you drift. Here's what I want. I just wanted to know, like stand-up, it's such a strange thing. To me, it has this great anti-anxiety thing. It makes me feel connected. Makes me feel alive. I know that's maybe
best
sounds
case
strange.
scenario, yeah.
Unless it goes terrible, and then it can be the opposite. But I was wondering if you still feel that way, like stand-up v party.
Oh, I mean, when you said I did a set and it was great, and then I went to a party, I was like, I'm out on this.
Yeah.
I can't even, no thank you.
Right.
It's one or the other for me. And I will dread the party for 3 weeks beforehand. I think... You know what's funny is that show that we did together was a Sunday night. It was like amazing. It was like you and like Dana Carvey and David Spade and then me for some reason. And I had to follow you and you just like murdered. Like we were all in the back and I'm just like, all right, guys. I'm like, I'm about to bomb pretty hard. So just remember me as I was, I guess. And it was like so crazy. And the night before, I had done both the early show and the late show at the Improv and then the store in between. And early show at the Improv was great. Show at the store was great. And then I came back to the Improv for the 9:30, 10 p.m. show. And it was hands down the worst audience I've maybe ever had. And I'm pretty like, look, I don't have the highest self-esteem. If people don't like me, I'm like, all right, I could see that.
I feel that.
I'm not what you wanted, and that's okay.
It's one of the greatest gifts you can give, by the way, because there are inevitably some people that are enjoying you, and when you're just like, it's okay. But this night, not bad.
This night was just objectively bad. Like, I watched them be like so silent for the cold opener, which I was like, okay, I guess it's the cold open, so maybe they just need a minute. But like, even if you don't necessarily like connect with the cold opener, like you'll usually be more engaged. They just were like just nothing. And then Frasier was hosting and they gave Frasier almost nothing. And I was like, okay, well,
Kelsey Grammer?
it's still early. And we'll still like, we'll get them. It'll be fine. And then I went up and it was just, there's like low energy and then there's like hostile. It felt both of those things. It felt like the
low hostile.
The biggest laugh of my set, I think, was one of the first things I said, which is, I feel like everyone here is on a date with someone they know they're going to ghost. And I genuinely think that's what was going on. It was like a lot of couples. It felt very disjointed. Like, it didn't feel like a crowd at all. It just felt like a bunch of people with their arms crossed. And I totally let it get to me because I was like, I was in this room 2 hours ago.
Buddy.
I know this works.
Yes.
And I was also like, Jeselnik and like Nikki were next. And I just kept telling them famous people are coming. You have to get it together during my set because the famous people are coming. Like, what are you doing? Come on, guys.
Paul Revere.
I truly.
Jeselnik is coming. Jeselnik is coming.
Like,
he won't stand for this.
It was crazy. I felt like I was like an open micer again, but I like know I can do it. So like it really.
Not only you can do it, you just did it.
I just did it twice.
Yeah.
And I did kind of like, I did lose a little bit where I think towards the end I was like, is everyone in here just really hot and they're upset they have to look at someone else? Like, what is it? Can you all pretend you're filming a self-tape can you pretend you're auditioning for someone who likes comedy? Like, did everyone come here on purpose? Like, I was just upset. And then I had to kind of try to.
Did they laugh at that?
Like, here and there. It was.
At the Improv last night, just for fun, just because I don't want you to feel alone. If they turn their back on me, I love being like, fuck you. Like, it's just so fun. Because sometimes that's exactly what they want. Was it what they wanted?
No. That was what was upsetting is I go, okay, well, if they're not like feeling the material, then I'll just like yell at them or whatever gently. I'll just, reprimand them.
Look.
And then that's what they want. But they didn't even want that. What fucked with me is somebody asked them a question. They're like, oh, the comic before me was like, that's a cool sweatshirt. Do you smoke weed? And the guy just went, no. And you're like, see, a normal nice person would be like, not really. Like, soften it. No.
Yeah,
Okay.
subtitles on, it says, fuck you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was the energy of the entire crowd. And I saw Nikki like a few days after and I was like, how was that crowd for you? Was that bad? And she goes, oh yeah, I remember. She's like, I kind of blocked it out, but they were bad. And then I also asked when I went back on Sunday night when I was there with you guys, I was like, the rest of the show, did it get better? And they were like, no, it didn't get better.
Isn't that kind of... okay, look, I'm not being positive, Pete. I'm saying you ran into Nikki and you can bond over that.
Right.
When you're on the road and you bomb alone, you know what I mean? And like before you're even bringing an opener or anything like that, and it's just you, that sucks. When you can at least
when
go
it's
like...
just you, yeah.
Did you see that shit?
Yeah.
And you can watch comics that you respect and love also do poorly.
Right.
That I hate to say it. It's not that I want them to do poorly. It's that I go like, okay, it wasn't just me. Like we all ate shit tonight.
Yeah. And I didn't stay for the rest of the show, so I didn't know. Why would you? And I was scared. I was glad I saw Nikki because I didn't want to. I told her this. I was like, I didn't want to text you and be like, that crowd sucked, right? And you're like, I thought they were fun. And I'm like, cool. I'll just go drive into the ocean.
Talk about being sensitive. I feel it when I send a text out like that, like, wow, that crowd was nuts or bad. I'll actually kind of feel it in my stomach until they reply.
Yeah.
Like I'll carry it. And then when they go, I'll be like, oh, I didn't realize how much I was waiting for them to validate that. But so much of, I noticed this at the party last night, subtitles on, so much of communication is me going like, Taylor, sometimes I feel this way. Is that okay?
Yeah.
And you go, I also feel that way. And that's okay because there's two of us.
Yes.
Wouldn't you say that's all, like so much of what we're doing?
Yes. Oh my God. I'm just walking around going, is anyone else afraid? Who else is afraid? Raise of hands. Who's afraid?
And T-Tom, I did the... look, I don't know if this is true, but it just seemed like Bill Burr did my Largo show recently, and there were a lot of Bill Burr people there. Not that there's only one kind. I'm a Bill Burr person. I love Bill Burr, but there were a lot of guys that looked very muscly. That's all I'll say.
Right.
And I said, and maybe it's not the funniest line in the world, but I had done it 2 nights early at the Improv, and it did really well, and I was really like excited to say it again. I feel like you're gonna like it. Not to forecast, but I was like You say it apropos of nothing. You just go, round of applause. Who here would just start crying if their dad looked at them and said, I'm so sorry?
Oh my God, you did say that on the show.
Oh, I did? That was the first time.
That was the first time. I laughed so hard at that.
OMG, dead.
So hard at that.
So I can't wait to do it again.
Yeah.
And I swear there was something going on that night. Bill would tell you too. There was something just sort of strange in the room that night. And it was a great show, but something was off.
The spirit of Joe Rogan.
The spirit of Joe Rogan was there. Emblazoned on the men's room. I always think the joke, because he has the round head, he just looks kind of, and he's boxy. He looks like the men's room symbol. Is that anything?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
I say that's true of any guy with a shaved head. I'm just kind of like the men's room symbol.
Yeah.
It's not, it's mean.
I had to think
it's not
of
funny enough.
I had to think of the men's room symbol, because that's not the one I'm going in.
You're looking for the other one.
Yeah, I'm looking for the other one.
Where is that dress?
I was like,
where's that dress that has no give? It's just completely out.
So 50s, you know? Let's update it.
It's like a robot. It's the Jetsons made.
It is.
Oh, I can't believe you got that ref.
Yeah.
Sweet ref. I used to do that bit about that. I was like, why do you guys get my references? I used to do that at college. I'm like, everything I say, people your age still get. I'm 43. But I have no fear of saying...
Maybe you have immature references.
It could be, but even the maid from the Jetsons, that's like my dad would be like, now we're talking.
The Jetsons are pretty... You know what the Jetsons are.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. Let's call someone from Gen Z and see if they know, but...
Is that the next one?
Gen Z is the next one. Gen Z is the one right behind me.
And then are we back
They're
to
like
A?
2 years behind me, like 2 years younger than me is Gen Z, and I feel the difference.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
What's the diff?
I'm so scared of them.
You are?
Yeah, I'm really scared of them. They're just like very, I don't know. They're so like open-minded and like I just feel like they hate us. I know they hate us. I'm on TikTok. They don't like millennials. They think we're cringy.
Cringe.
Yeah, we think we're cringe. Yeah.
Gross.
And is it cringe or cringe? I'm sweating.
Yeah.
I'm sweating.
And we're already panicking.
I'm already panicking.
What is Selena Gomez? Because when I watch...
She's a millennial.
Okay.
Yeah, she's a millennial.
When I watch Only Murders, that's the time when I'm really like, I really see that. I think she's great. I really do. But there's the real difference between... Steve Martin Short, and Selena Gomez, because Martin Short's like hitting his mark and he's like, I have now delivered my line and exit stage right. And Steve Martin's like, oh, still doing it, and I'm dying. And then Selena Gomez is like, I think there's been some murder in the well. It's not even, I'm just like, go ahead. What's your take? What's your take?
I love that show. Do you like the show?
I like it. Something's a little off about it because it's so cute. Sometimes I go like, it's a little, like the second season, I catch myself going like, it can be like a perfect dessert that I almost don't want to eat. And if you're not in the mood for a perfect dessert, maybe you should watch The Old Man.
Right. I haven't seen the second season yet, but I watched the first season and I did watch it one a week.
Yes.
And I feel like this is one of the shows that I do feel like works once a week.
You should watch once a week for sure.
Which is weird. I don't feel that way about almost anything anymore.
Yeah.
And because most things I'm like, I'll lose interest if it's once a week. But that I really was like, oh,
yes.
a new one.
Yes.
And I think the fact that they were like, we have these two legends and then we have like the biggest like young star in the world.
Is she?
I think she's the most followed person on Instagram, or she was for a while.
Really?
Oh yeah.
See, this is my point. I'm old school in the sense that I think show business people are supposed to be like, hello, I understand there are murders in the building, right?
No.
And then she's like, I don't
know. No, younger people are like, I will watch Selena Gomez do anything.
Really?
Yeah, she's got like a show where she cooks, I guess. I haven't seen it, but you're like, you'll watch her do literally anything. I don't know why. Like, she's obviously talented and stuff and beautiful, but like they're just maybe because we all grew up with her too. Like I will follow you into.
Wait, you love her?
Yeah, I will watch her do anything.
Really?
Yeah.
And you know what I'm talking about with the difference in efforting. I really feel like that's a millennial thing potentially.
Right.
Is like don't act like you've been there. I think if I was on Only Murders in the Building, every take you would see in my face, I can't believe I'm on this show. Like you would see it.
Yeah. You know what I do feel this way about? I feel this way about stand-up sometimes. Do you feel this way about stand-up where you're like, there's so much stand-up now that doesn't feel as polished that people connect with?
Totally.
And I feel, I keep getting called like old school in like reviews of my stand-up.
You're Martin Short. You're not Selena Gomez.
It's so strange.
When you're going, like, you know what I thought when I was watching your special? I was like, either you gave yourself the note, or there's a lot of moments where like you're in the pool. There's another moment where you're in a pool and you're like, good thing I'm wearing my floaties. Oh, every dick is like jumping in cold water.
Yes.
And you're like, good thing I'm wearing my floaties. And I'm like, either that's a great that feels like a line another comedian would be like, you should say the floaties. Or Taylor just did the work.
Yeah.
Either way, you did it. Like the whole hour is tied up. It's also exactly 1 hour. Have you noticed?
Yep, I did that on purpose. We filmed like an hour 12 and I cut 12.
To make it exactly an hour?
Yeah, because I think if
Your
you
therapist
see something,
comes in? I find that significant.
Well, I think if you see something over an hour, when I see something over an hour, whether it is an episode of a TV show or a stand-up special, I'm like, that seems pretty long.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if you can make it so it just says 3 question marks. Like a cool party, 8 p.m. to question mark.
Like you don't know how long it is.
I don't know.
That's funny.
Because then I do that with, I saw a YouTube video that was like, it might as well have
as
been
long
like.
as you want.
Yes.
But we're not going to tell you when it ends.
Fuck you.
That's interesting.
I saw a YouTube video that was, it might as well have been like, scientists figured out trick to always be happy. It might as well have been called that. And it was only 7 minutes, and I was like, I could watch that.
That's
like,
what I'm saying.
You won't dedicate 13? What if it was 13? Would you watch Science Figures Out How to Be Happy?
I wouldn't. I'd be like, if you really figured it out, why is it taking so fucking long? You obviously haven't figured it out, because you know what doesn't make me happy? Wasting my fucking time.
Yet, T-Tom, what are we doing with this time we're saving? Have you noticed?
Yeah.
I sound like, see, this is why I'm Steve Martin. I'm not Selena. She'd be like, we're doing things that we.
This is why I love this podcast, because I'm either going to leave more depressed or less depressed.
I think my goal will be less depressed.
Okay, good.
Because you're going to love that question.
Okay.
And I haven't broken the glass yet.
Oh my God.
But when we get there, I also want to, like, I'm really feeling like really ADDDD this week. I don't even like, I'm not one of those people that likes belonging to that group, but I might. And at the party last night, I really couldn't keep things together. And even on stage, I'm going to try and stay focused. I really think people would be interested to hear, because you've been touring a lot since I last saw you.
Yeah.
Do you enjoy it? And how, any weird ones?
I mean, I do enjoy it. I haven't been touring the last 2 months.
Okay.
Because the last show of the tour was May 7th, I think. May 6th, 7th in Los Angeles in the Netflix Fest. And I had been on the road, like first in clubs and then the theater tour for like 14 months straight, like almost every weekend for a while. And I was like hitting a wall with it where I'm like, I need some time off for sure.
Yeah, you don't feel that way, like even in between shows on a Saturday. I'm always like,
oh yeah,
I have to do this again.
I feel it 40 minutes into the first show. Then 40 minutes into the first show, I'm like, this is incredible. And why ruin it? Why do this again? We did it.
Taylor, I'm dead. I didn't know you felt that way.
Oh my God, yeah.
Okay, so I agree. You do read old school, and that to me just means clearly this person put in the effort. That cinches up that point we were making. I think that's why people think you're old school.
But when like Vulture reviews you, and it's very nice, and they go like, it's old fashioned stand up, you're like, I thought I'm just trying to get good at like the craft of it, because I think I don't have the self esteem to like coast on my personality. Like I feel like,
well, thank God.
I don't know. I'm like, I thought what's old, like I can't sing, like that's the only other way I could do something like groundbreaking.
Yeah.
Is if I could sing maybe, but I can't sing. Like I'm not like,
it's like saying you're an old school painter because it's like she uses colored paint.
It truly, where I'm like, you guys should watch Kat Cohen. Like Kat Cohen's amazing and is doing something different. But if you want stand up, I'm over here. Like is how I feel about it. And I don't know. I've learned to like that comment, but before it used to feel like a little bit of a weird dig that I didn't know how to take initially.
That's
but
interesting.
now
I think you should only take it as a compliment.
Okay, that's
because I think a lot of us older people who write for Vulture, I have a pen name. I won't tell you which one I am, but like we look at younger people and the style du jour seems to be like, don't look too like you're trying too hard. Yeah. Because that's vulnerable or something or stupid or cringe. But you're like, nope, here's a perfect hour of stand-up comedy. But it doesn't feel like you're going, like I'm watching. You're not doing, I like Seinfeld, you're not doing what Seinfeld does where it's like, every word is perfect.
Right.
You're not doing that.
No.
That's old school.
I don't know how to do like have you seen this in the news? Like, I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
I'm talking about my feelings and experiences.
Yeah.
So to me, that's old school. It's just like observational about things we're literally all just looking at.
I
and
found
not
it
what's
to be
happening inside of you.
incredibly modern. I have a couple questions. Here's one.
Okay.
You say, you're talking about, Val and I both struggle with overeating, like emotional eating. Like
Yes.
and it has nothing to do with hunger. You're just doing it to get your
Fill
mind
a
off
void.
something or fill a void. Or for me, it's often because I've earned it.
Right, yeah.
Like I'm like,
it's a treat.
I do stand up. We'll go back in the green room. Every dessert. Just bring us every dessert. And like, it took me so long to be like, just take a breath. Just take a breath. Maybe you'll have a fucking diarrhea. Or not diarrhea, but you'll feel like shit if you eat every dessert. Maybe don't do that. But when you're doing that, you're like, round of applause if you've done this or done this. And you go, okay, about 7 of you. And the rest of you are like, I eat for fuel, right? Do you remember this?
Yeah.
And then you do the examples and people are laughing and you go, sounds like more than 7 of you. And I'm like, that's really great. Here's the question. Are you ready? Is that because you had said 7 that night, or do you always say 7?
I usually adjust it based on what it feels like. I always say a number, but if sometimes it's more people where I go like, feels like 20 of us. Okay. But it's always more than who cheers.
For sure.
Yeah.
I just love that. Those are little moments, those little pockets. That's what I mean is you're not just doing, I think the insult in old school is like you go up and you're in like a plaid blazer and you're like, all right. And there's no attention paid to the medium or that it's being filmed or like how, you know what I mean? You're just doing your act, like vaudeville. That's not what's happening. I see you adapting and changing and also clearly communicating rather than reciting. I don't see you reciting.
Oh, that's nice. I would hope so. Yeah, the second show, I posted a clip of it. Netflix let me post it, which was nice. The second show that we filmed that night, somebody's phone went off, like somebody in the crew backstage.
Oh, boy.
And I was like, can you guys all hear that? Like, I just want to make sure that I'm not doing like a mental health special and then just losing my shit in the middle, because that would be hilarious. Like, so there's a whole clip of me just going, and then after I did that, I just went, look, we got it on the first show, you guys. This can go however, it doesn't matter.
It's my favorite feeling in the world.
I don't care.
Yep.
And everybody's like, yay.
Every special, not every, but the last one for sure, I go, we got it on the first one.
Yeah.
And you put the pressure on them. I might even say the onus on them. You put the onus on them. And then the crowd tends to be better because they want to be
they want to be the special crowd.
They want to be the special crowd. Great technique. Great technique.
Yeah.
Pardon the interruption, weirdos. This episode is brought to us by our friends at Olipop. Hands down, my favorite new beverage for real. Olipop is a new kind of soda. It tastes just like the sodas we grew up with, but unlike other sodas that are full of sugar, corn syrup, and artificial ingredients like aspartame, Olipop is made with natural ingredients that are actually good for you. They have delicious nostalgic flavors like vintage cola, classic root beer, which is my personal favorite this month, orange squeeze, cherry vanilla, strawberry vanilla, and classic grape. I absolutely love the root beer. It tastes just like the root beer I remember, but I haven't had regular soda like that in a long time, and this is a great way to get it back into my happy life. They use functional ingredients that combine the benefits of prebiotics, plant fiber, and botanicals to support your microbiome and benefit digestive health. I know when you hear fiber, you think, how can that be? It's soluble fiber, which means it's just blended into the water. There's absolutely no noticing of the fiber, but you get all of that digestive benefit as well as prebiotics, which are wonderful for your microbiome. Your gut is like a second brain. It's wonderful to support it. 90% of Americans consume more than the USDA's daily recommended added sugar intake, which is only 30 grams. Sweetened beverages like soda, like check this out. Their vintage cola only has 2 grams of sugar. To compare that to Coca-Cola, which has 39 grams. Every time this blows me away. That's 9 grams more than you're supposed to have. The orange squeeze, which is also amazing from Olipop, has 5 grams of sugar. Compare that to Fanta, which has 44. So drink Olipop. Get delicious soda back into your life made with natural, healthy ingredients, and it tastes absolutely wonderful. It's non-GMO, it's vegan, it's paleo, and keto-friendly with less than 8 grams net carbs per can. They're so confident you'll love their products. They offer a 100% money-back guarantee for orders, placed through their website. And we worked out a special deal for weirdos. Receive 20% off plus free shipping for your order. I recommend the variety pack. It's a great way to try all of the delicious flavors. Go to drinkolipop.com/weird or use code WEIRD at checkout for this deal. That's drinkolipop.com/weird. They can also be found at over 6,000 stores across the country, including Kroger, Whole Foods, Sprouts, and Wegmans, which they don't have in LA. But if you have a Wegmans, go there because that's a hilarious name. This episode is also brought to us by our friends at Real Paper. Val and I have made the swap to Real. We love it. It's wonderful, and they have an incredible, incredible benefit to the earth. I mean, trees are pretty great, aren't they? I mean, they provide shade. They make oxygen. I don't know why we're not talking about that. They prevent erosion. They suck up carbon. They provide homes for animals. I mean, is there anything they can't do? And to turn something as awesome as a tree, and more accurately, a forest of trees into toilet paper just feels wrong. Why are we wiping our butts with these treasures? It doesn't say that, but I'm asking. These trees spent decades growing only to get cut down and be flushed down the toilet. That's why I love Real Paper, REEL paper. Real makes a sustainable toilet paper that uses 100% bamboo. This isn't true, but I'm pretty sure 3,000 bamboo plants have grown since I've started this ad. That's not true, but it's a very fast growing and renewable source, much better than trees. The great thing about bamboo is that it is a super fast growing grass. Some species of bamboo can grow up to 3 feet per day, and because it's grass, they're able to harvest the same stalk over and over without disrupting the plant or the soil. And on top of all of these ecological benefits of using bamboo, Real's paper packaging is plastic-free and compostable. And, you know, it's sort of hard to talk about what you're putting on your butt, but it's soft, it's wonderful, it's all the things you want toilet paper to be. And I love, love, love knowing that we are not contributing to all of that waste and harm to the environment. After all, come on, guys. You're wiping your butt. Do it responsibly. Real Paper is available in easy, hassle-free subscriptions or for one-time purchases on their website. All orders are conveniently delivered to your door with free shipping and 100% recyclable, plastic-free packaging. I can attest to that. The packaging is wonderful. And if you head to realpaper.com, that's REELPAPER.com/weirdo, and sign up for a subscription using Weirdo at checkout, you'll automatically get 30% off your first order and free shipping. REELPAPER.com/weirdo and enter promo code weirdo to get 30% off plus free shipping. That's 30% off your first order. So let's stop flushing our forests and try Real's tree-free paper. Real is paper for the planet. I love it. That, by the way, am I the only one hearing that? Isn't that also the point of stand-up comedy? Like, we're back to how we relate. It's like, I'm afraid. Are you afraid?
Yeah.
And you go, am I the only one hearing that?
Yeah.
Like, I go up on stage, and that's why it's such a anti-anxiety for me, is when I talk about things that happen in traffic or this or that or with my parents or whatever it is, and they laugh. I go, okay, I'm not the only one hearing that.
Yes.
So I feel like that almost could have been the name of that special. Am I the only one
hearing that? Yeah, absolutely.
That feels right?
Yeah, totally. I think that was something I felt like early on is I just thought I had to come up with things that everybody felt. And then I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to talk about things I feel. And then everybody goes, not everybody, but a portion of them go, me too. And you go,
yep.
Well, I feel better. And I'm just going to focus on those things. And I'm going to focus on communicating it in a way that it really resonates with the people it already resonates with. And then the people who don't connect with it still think it's funny and learn something.
That's
maybe,
right.
about someone they know, maybe.
The entertainment can often be, that's not how I am, but I had no idea other people were that way.
Yes.
I think about that all the time, especially after I come through to the other side of an issue. I realize, some people were laughing, not bad at, but they were laughing at me. They were laughing at a floundering man who was like so obsessed about this, that, or the other. Maybe I thought they were relating.
Yes.
But some of them were actually like, oh, I remember what it was like to be 28.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I do know what you mean, actually.
Do you have bits that you look back on and you're like, oh, I was so in myself that I didn't even know?
I don't know. I can't, not off the top of my head that I can think of, but people would say things to me like that after shows where they would give me that like sort of pitying, like, it gets better. Your 30s or your 40s are way better. It's just a nightmare right now.
It's actually kind of true, though.
Oh, it totally is. And I did appreciate it. But
Yeah.
at the time, you feel kind of like, so were you just sitting in the audience going, oh.
Me? Yeah, them.
Yeah.
I want to circle back to 40 minutes through the first.
Dude, we were talking about it in the green room last night where we were like, one show tonight. This is so nice. Because Saturday we were like, can you believe we're doing two? Especially after COVID. I was at the Brea Improv.
Yeah.
Yeah. With Irene too and Zach Noe Towers. Okay. They're very, very funny. And we were all just like, towards the end of the first one, you're like, again?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It starts to feel, this is why I like going on the road, but the more I do it, the more I'm like, can we just do it once at a bigger venue? Is that possible?
Yeah.
And not even a huge venue, just like one time. And the thing also, I don't like doing it on Saturday because then you're just something that's happening as opposed to, like, I love a Thursday, 8:00, one show at the Firebird in St. Louis. You know what I mean? Those are always great shows. But then, like, you will do those clubs, and I'm grateful to do those clubs. But those are where I tend to have those feelings of like, I just told this joke, and then my job becomes pretending like I'm enjoying it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think right now I'm in like the building phase, so I'm trying to figure out the new hour. So I need all of these shows and I need all of these reps at these clubs.
Yeah.
But when I have it figured out, like when we were on the theater tour and we had added shows because we were doing smaller theaters, and you're doing 2 shows and 2 meet and greets, you're like, I did 4 shows and I'm exhausted, and I'm doing the exact same hour pretty much. Like, I am very tired. This would be great if it was just the one tonight. And even sets in town, like, you know, taking time off the road to be home the last couple months, I was like, oh, I'll just do sets in town and that'll be great. And I'm at the point now where I'm like, the improv stage feels like a cruise ship to me. Where I'm like, are these different people? I can't tell. I can't tell if I did this already. Like,
why are you doing it so much?
Because I've been home. So I'm like, well, I have to get on stage. So I'm just going to keep doing that. But I'm like, I can't keep that. I went to San Diego and did Mic Drop Comedy Club has a side room that's like 50 seats. And I went and did that. And during the week, and that was really fun and helpful. I went and featured for my friend Dustin in San Diego because I was like, I got to get out of here. Like, doing clubs in LA just doesn't, at a certain point, you're like, I can't do this all the time. Yeah.
This is going to sound like a therapist question, but what does it feel like to not do stand-up all the time?
I would like it to feel better than it does. I can go like 5 days without feeling guilty. I think, for the most part. Now, we've worked up to that. Yeah. But then past that, I'm like, you're going to get bad. You're going to get bad at this.
That's the voice.
Yeah, I took 2 solid weeks off after the end of my tour where I was like, I didn't go up for 2 weeks. Yeah. And I just like focused on other things instead. But I was like, I have to be productive. So I like.
So even then you wouldn't fully take it off. You were just being productive on other things.
Just different things where you're like, okay, I'm going to, you know, meet my boyfriend. Like, you're just like, I'm going to do this now.
Meet him.
This is when I have time.
Meet you.
Yeah. I'm like, look, I have 8 weeks.
I've only seen you in my periphery up until now. I know your laugh.
Just going to find the one, I guess, before tours.
Are you dating a boyfriend?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And a human
And
boyfriend?
I met him the day after my tour ended.
Oh, wow.
I literally was like, okay, we'll do this now. Like, I have time for this.
That's interesting. Okay, let's get to boyfriend. When you're just still,
Yeah.
No good.
I was talking to my friend Kelsey Cook about this. You know Kelsey?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about being on the road and coming home. And like, if we're doing club weekends, we can come home on Sunday or Monday and then be totally home for like 3 days and not do sets because we got to go back on Thursday or whatever. Like, we've gotten to that point where we're like, we can be off Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, if we're in between club weekends. But like, to really do nothing is very hard. To like take days off to like clean your apartment and like run errands and see your family, that feels like time off because I'm still working on things. Like, it's hard for me to be totally present and checked out and not anxious unless I'm with another person that I care about, because then I'm still working on something. I'm working on my relationship with my sister or my boyfriend or my friends. Like, I need to be
earning it.
Yeah.
Do you think this goes back to the God doesn't love me unless I do what he tells me?
Everything does. What doesn't go back to that?
Like, for Nikki and I were just talking about that. Like, all these people that grew up religious, myself included, have a really hard time. It's funny, the people that I was told that God loved me, sort of have the hardest time believing it. You know what I mean?
Because I don't blame God so much as my father, but...
No, I know, because, yes, it wasn't God, it was stapled to it.
Yeah.
It's like the George Carlin thing. It's like, he loves you, but also you have to do all of these things to keep him from kicking you into a furnace, which I'm sure I said the last time he did this.
Yeah.
So from that comes, did you know that's what, it's what Richard Rohr says, that's what Paul, the Apostle Paul, means when he says the law. It's the performance principle. It's the idea that you can earn it.
Oh.
So he's really like railing against, he says the law. If you read any like Romans or whatever, it's always railing against the law. And I always thought that just meant like being legalistic. It actually means thinking that you can earn God's favor or your worthiness. It's like, it's any notion that you're not just sort of like already okay. Isn't that weird?
That is super weird.
Kind of fun. Yeah. But then that bleeds into even your social life. You want to be working. See, I relate because I like doing this podcast. I'm like, I have this day to not really do much. Taylor and I, we could have just had lunch.
Yeah.
But it's better to bang out a podcast.
But we did a thing. This is also productive.
Yeah. But it doesn't, you do tie it back to that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think just trying to be perfect is hard to get away from. And your definition of perfect changes. Mm. And I think with stand-up specifically, I think COVID was interesting because I realized how much of my identity was wrapped up in being a comedian. And so when we didn't have that anymore, I was like, okay, if I don't have this, am I going to be okay? Am I still worth anything? Is this the reason people like me and are with me? And if I'm not this anymore, then are those people going to leave?
It's like, did you watch Pam and Tommy?
I didn't.
There's just a line. Oh, okay, we'll do the bit. I never did on stage. But Hugh Hefner says to Pam Anderson, don't confuse your price with your value, which is really good. And I also, the bit was...
That's really good.
They put it in the mouth of Hugh Hefner, and maybe he did say it, but he also was like, and look at them big old titties. Like I just was like...
I know, you're like, that seems... people are complicated. I understand.
But they only had him being like a sage.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Sure.
It can be both. We can handle the nuance of like, and I love the way you look in this shoot, baby. Can it be both? But I think don't confuse so you're saying, and I felt the same thing, during COVID, you sort of vanished. We all sort of vanished because people like you and me, and I'm saying I'm still this way, of course. I look for my identity in other people's eyes. Val and I were talking about that. Like, we're shiny people.
Yeah.
But shiny people only exist in relation to the things that's shining a light on them.
Yeah.
We just reflect back what people are shining onto us.
Yeah.
So when that light goes away, we're just a rock.
Yeah. And I need you to, and if you get close enough to me, I'm going to be a rock sometimes. And I have to be shiny
It's better
enough.
from a distance.
Yeah.
Look at me glisten. Yeah. Don't get close to a rock. I'm a terrible pillow. Yeah. That sort of thing.
Yeah. If I can be, the way I always feel in relationships is if I can be shiny most of the time, then that will make up for what a rock I am for part of it.
Yeah, no, I
for
understand.
this, like, there will be 20% of the time that I am, not shiny at all. So just like be super shiny.
I wonder if I said this last time.
2/3 of the time.
Marilyn Monroe had that quote, if you don't like me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best.
Yeah, but I don't feel that way. I feel like if I'm not my best enough, you won't give me a pass at my worst.
This is if they knew who I really was, they'd leave me.
Yeah.
It's one of the most basic human fears that all of us have, and yet all of us think we're the only ones.
Yeah.
We really think we're just like, well, clearly everyone else is fine.
Yeah.
Showing who they really are. But that's what's going on there.
Yeah. I need my positive attributes to outweigh,
to make it worth it.
And I realize this about stand-up is like, because I have gotten all of the things I wanted in stand-up. I have gotten them. I wanted a special by 30 or at 30. That's what I wanted. So once I got to this place where I was like, oh my God, I'm like touring theaters. I have multiple Netflix specials. I did all the things. Maybe we start looking at the other stuff that could make you a better partner. And not just focus on like being impressive. Like maybe we stop looking at your credits as a way to make people love you and instead become like more patient and forgiving and even tempered and communicative and loving and thoughtful.
Even loving to the, I've been getting angry lately. I don't know why. I've been on like a little more stress or something. And this is going to sound maybe woo-woo, or like maybe Owen Wilson should say it. But it's like I've been practicing when I get angry, I just go, I love my anger. I love this anger. Like, thank you. You protect me sometimes. You keep me sharp when I need to be sharp. Like, it doesn't need to overflow. Like, often I'm so waspy, but I'll keep it inside. But like, it really dissolves it when you greet it with understanding and even affection. You're just like, because I can love your anger. Like, I can love Taylor's anger. When I see you get worked up on stage or really communicating something powerful and strong that you're feeling, we love it. It's just so hard when we're feeling how like, complicated and messy it feels. It's like embarrassing.
Yeah.
That's how it is for me. I'm embarrassed that I lost control of myself. It's so embarrassing.
It's so embarrassing to
being
have
human.
Oh yeah.
It's embarrassing. What are we doing here?
I don't know. I don't like it.
Yeah.
Not a fan.
Yeah. And flawed and broken.
Yeah. My biggest insecurity,
not a fan.
Not a fan. And my biggest insecurity is just that, like, I can handle if people leave comments that are like, I thought this was supposed to be funny. And I'm like, it's just not for you. Like, it's funny to some people. Like, I'm funny. But if people are like, you're ugly, I'm like, you're right. That's absolutely correct. And I knew it. And I knew it secretly. But I know that's not true. It's the same as being funny. You're like, this is subjective.
But we're back.
This shouldn't. But like, everybody has their own individual things. But it's so embarrassing
that you care
to feel.
Yes.
Like, like, it's so embarrassing. I have a joke that I don't know. I like it so much, and it's like, it goes fine. So it's one of those ones where you're like, should I get rid of this? Like,
I think I saw you do it.
Did you see me?
Because you said, that joke does fine, but I won't get rid of it.
Oh, no, it's not that one. That one I figured out this last week, and I just had to change the wording. So that one's working. But the one that I can't figure, I just don't know if I should keep or not, is like, I'm so tired of trying to figure out if I'm attractive or not. Like, trying to figure out if you are hot is like trying to figure out if God is real. Like, even if you manage to convince yourself, you'll never convince everybody, and you'll never know for sure.
Wow.
And like, your mom thinks so, but of course she does.
Right.
She has to.
Right. I think that's great. It's interesting.
But I don't know if it's funny.
There's just a speed bump. For me, I think as soon as you tie it to something as big as like, it's probably 50-50 in the crowd, believe in God, don't believe in God. I have this whole chunk I'm doing on God, and you know how the joke ends? Sorry, that's not funnier. That's how the joke ends. It's actually built into the joke because I love doing it, but it's like a TEDx talk
Yeah.
at a certain point. Not even a full TED talk. It's a TEDx talk.
We're on the side stage.
Yeah, exactly. Let me put this to you, like, all of these things are and I'm with you in this. Like, as shiny, aspiring people who want to be shiny and people who want other people to tell us we're attractive or funny and all this stuff, even when they do, which is what you were starting to get to, it's like you've ticked so many boxes that you wanted to tick in your career, you're still separate. You know what I mean? Like, their praise still puts you away from them. You know, does that make sense?
Right, where you're like, you like the trick I can do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not the fullness.
Yeah.
Not the person who loves your ugliness or you have that great bit of like, I love your soft arms. Like, we need those people that actually, I think Val does love my baby butt. Like, I have a butt. It looks like a baby's butt. I've seen it. Looks like a baby's butt. And she's like, I believe her when she says, I love your baby butt. And for me, I need that safe person where there's no performing, which paradoxically, Val and I laugh more than anybody.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, but you wouldn't think, I thought I had to be all rigid and perfect, but it turns out like you can just flop around and be stupid. And she's like that's safe. So I'm wondering, what's this current boy? Is he a stand-up comedian?
Oh, I mean, no. I'm sorry.
And also, no,
I don't want to react that way.
No, yeah.
I've dated comedians. I don't want to make it sound like that was some horrible thing.
No, I understand. But it's like two hitmen, Dan.
It's absolutely two hitmen. It's absolutely two. I dated a comic who used to say that
Really?
years ago in my early 20s. He would say when we went on the road, he's like, it's so fun. We're like two hired guns. And I'm like, sure, yeah. Like, and years ago.
There were some comedians that still only date comedians and some married comedians. And
are there comedians who only date comedians?
Well, I remember Natasha Leggero only dated comedians, I think. And then she married Moshe Kasher, who's a very funny comedian. And I remember, because I was wondering if I should date a comedian, and then I ended up dating a comedian. Yeah. And she's like, it's the best because they understand bits and they understand clubs. And for me, and that person and I are still very close, but like that wasn't right for me because two hitmen dating each other, it becomes completely normal that all you think about and all you talk about is how to assassinate like a Brazilian dictator.
Right. Yeah.
Like, oh, those were good times. Who books that?
Right.
Who books Brazilian dictator? Who books that? Yeah, crazy. So you're
It
off,
is weird. Yeah. No, I.
What is weird about it? You were saying.
It's weird because I have felt that way too, where it is so funny to me that there are people, and maybe this is less of a thing now, but when I was younger, it felt like more of a thing where we'd all sit around and go like, I mean, who else are you going to date? Who else is going to get it?
Yeah.
No one else is going to get it. I'm like, people in the army don't say this.
Yeah.
Like, people who have been to war aren't like, no one's going to understand where I'm coming from. Unless they're, and it's like, we're just doing dick jokes like no one else can.
South Bend funny bone. If you don't get those 4 words, I can't love you. You're right.
If you haven't been to Cap City, I mean, what? How will there be a level we never get to?
There are people in platoons doing things that most people will never do, and they don't talk to us that way.
No. It's so stupid. We are so stupid. We're so stupid. But you get to a point where you're like, oh, we're just like enabling each other's insecurities and workaholism.
Well, that's what I ultimately thought it was. When you're dating another comedian, not all of them, clearly, I think Natasha and Moshe are a wonderful couple. But when I did it, it was like, you won't get in my way. I'm like Tom Cruise in Collateral. And I'm like, look, I'm in a cab killing 7 people in Los Angeles in one night. Can you be my Jamie Foxx?
Right.
Will
and
you
they're
not
like, I have people to kill too.
Yeah. I have a thing too.
I also have a thing.
I'm killing 6 people. It doesn't mean you're better than me.
Are you going to drive tomorrow?
So funny. I used to get in trouble. I always think of this because this is one of those things that you don't realize is a huge mistake when you're in your 20s. But when you look back, you're like, it was. But the girl that I dated, who was a comedian, was several years behind me, and she wanted to do like a hot show in New York. And I just went up to the booker and I was like, you should look at this person. And she was mortified. I thought I was doing the good thing.
Yeah.
And she was like, you just did my nightmare.
Right.
Is that you went up and there was like, I didn't even recognize this, but there was some condescension where I'm like, well, you're not going to get, all I was thinking was like, people had done that for me. Like the way I got on it was someone did it for me. I know we're dating, but like there are things, the optics are just wrong.
Yeah. I've never dated anybody that was like 5 years behind me or something. I don't know that I could do that.
Yeah.
Like, I think that would be hard. And I don't know that I could date somebody who was like way more successful than me. I probably could, but like, I don't know that I could handle being someone who was ahead.
Yeah.
And navigating that sounds really hard.
I hear you.
It's great when it's like you're both kind of in the same.
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome.
It's an alliance.
Yeah, it's an alliance. It's cool.
Yes.
You're like, this is like fan fiction.
Yeah.
Like for some people on Reddit.
It's like dating.
And other people are mad,
so
probably.
Funny. It's like dating in high school. You know you're probably going to break up when you go to college.
Right. But you're like, right now, we're prom king and queen.
And it's too lonely out there.
Yeah.
It's too hard out there. We need to do this together.
Yeah.
So here's a question I'd like to hear about your boyfriend in general, but also in your special, you said something that I thought was really smart, but you talked about the when you go to enough therapy, you realize it's you. Remember?
Yeah.
Like you're a raccoon in a bag.
Yeah.
When you get in a fight.
Yeah.
I was wondering, just like to help people, even me, like what are the things that you figured out about yourself? Like what were those humbling things where you're like, oh, wait, I had this issue, even though a lot of them are in your special. I'm just wondering like what those aha moments were.
I mean, so many. Being on mood stabilizers, I feel like an entirely different person, which has been tough because I started on the ones I'm on now that worked for me a few months before I filmed Quarter Life. And so that would have been mid 2019. And then I was on half the dosage I am now for like a year and a half. And I thought I was great. And I'm like, we got it. And then I had like another episode and I was like, that's when I found out I was bipolar too. And once I got to this dosage, it was like, oh, okay, this is what it is. And looking back on stuff, you go, oh, I used to pull away from people when I felt scared and like nervous retreat. And betrayed. And what?
Retreat.
Yeah. And really just like, I used to be really angry. Like I used to be very suspicious of everybody. I used to expect people to lie to me and leave me and all these different things that I now realize were coming from somewhere inside me. Sometimes they weren't. Sometimes I was right. And sometimes that was fully happening. And
then kind of to your point, I think this is one of the most interesting, undiscussed things about relationships is what we're unconsciously looking for. Like when you say it's a self-fulfilling prophecy and then you act a certain way to make it happen.
Yeah.
That is one aspect of it. I think there's this other aspect with like, what are you attracted to and why?
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to, I sure don't want you to feel sad, but I have to think with your mom, that's a type of abandonment, right?
Oh yeah.
So
absolutely.
You feel almost like that, you know, when being sad is kind of cozy, I think you do.
Yeah, I do.
So you kind of like are looking for what's familiar.
Yeah.
And maybe even being left is the worst thing in the world, but it's also kind of like, at least you know how to navigate it.
Right. Yeah. The whole, what you were talking about with feeling like you have to earn people's love and affection, I felt that way with my dad, who is alive, but I don't speak to. So
I talked to him.
You talked to him?
Yeah.
How's he doing?
We have a WhatsApp.
Oh, good. Okay. Well,
great.
That's great. If you could, change his mind on some things, that would be great. You seem like you should be a therapist. You really are. You should be a therapist for conservative middle-aged white men.
Whoa.
Because you have the Christianity vibe to you. Yes. So you can kind of sneak it in there.
Well, you say something to me and then I go, okay, I'll take that to him. And then I go to him like the UN.
Yeah.
And then he says something to me and then I go like, well, I'm not going to say that.
Right.
And then I change it a little bit. Well, let's get to that
we'll figure it out.
Moment. Yeah.
But like, I think for me, I expect to have to earn somebody's love and that they're going to say something like just crushing to me. If somebody like showers me with praise and love, but then will say something really devastating and horrible and not listen to what I'm saying or what I need, or like all of that feels very familiar to me because that was my relationship with my dad.
Yes.
So that is the first part. And then if that's not the case, if I feel safe and loved and taken care of, I immediately think they're going to die.
Right. Of course.
So
you got both.
One way or the other. Nobody's sticking around.
Right.
Right.
Which is why, see, Taylor, this happened last time. I really don't want to sound like I'm over here and I figured it out, but something that worked for me, I just remember before I met Val, I had a lot of friendships actually that were modeling something toxic that I had with my mom, which is very similar. My mom is very loving, but then she'll also be like, well, that hat is ridiculous. You know, just like, she says it. And I convinced myself that I really liked that. I was like,
I wish my dad was like that, by the way. That's not what I'm talking about.
No, I know. At least it's mild.
I wish it was that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's worse than that.
Yeah, no, it's pretty bad. Yeah.
What do you mean?
It's really bad. I'll tell you off mic, but it's bad. It's really rough.
Sorry. Really?
Yeah. It's really rough. It's like we can't speak to you anymore. Rough.
Wow.
Like it has to get to a bad point. Yeah, that was the thing is like the LA Times called you, which I'm so sorry again that happened to you.
No, I said to you, I was like, I hope that was okay, because I directly addressed how I was hoping that maybe it would, not just for the sake of like being nice, that you and your dad would at some point reconcile, but because that just seems to be how things go.
Yeah.
They die and then they change. Like that's what we can say about the whole universe.
Yeah.
It's constantly dying and changing.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what I was like, oh, wouldn't it be interesting if your religious dad and you had your own sort of death and resurrection? Because that's just the sine wave of the universe.
And if it was just that, you know, we have different religious, I have plenty of family, not plenty, but I have some family that, you know, your grandparents or whatever, they believe different things religiously, but there's still that love and, you know, and you all know, and it's okay. And you just have different opinions. This is not that. This is like emotionally abusive mental illness. Like this is not good. So I was trying to speak about it very, vaguely and balanced in this LA Times article. And I think that interviewer who was very lovely, was coming from a place of like, he came up very religious and related to that part.
Well, we talked for 2 hours and it was mostly just about me. Well, I love talking about religion. And I was just going like, did you know prayer isn't just a list of things you want? It's actually a way of seeing the world or whatever. He was like, we were really vibing. Yeah. And we talked about you, just what's in the article, basically.
Yeah. No, when you find another person who's like, you got out, I got out, and I have all these feelings about it. Like that was very much how that interview was. And so of course we like got to that. And I think maybe he thought it was more like of a religious thing of like, well, we just don't, you know, I don't believe in God and that's sad. Or like, I don't believe in the Christian God or like, I don't, whatever. But it's more than
I'm
that.
the one person that you would be like, you know, I have some interpretation of the unknown.
I know there's something else, but like the space pictures fucked me up. I wasn't just like, cool.
Oh, sure. How
did the space pictures make you feel? Great.
Well, I'll tell you.
I feel like you jerked off to the space pictures.
Supernova.
Like you loved it.
A champagne supernova. I love the space pictures. And look, let's not get off this topic because I think people are here to hear about you. But the space pictures are great. And I saw this, there was a TikTok that I really enjoyed that Valerie showed me. And it was like, Jesus is my Lord and Savior. Really? He went to all of these? Because each one of these is like 1 billion planets or something. And I was like, that's why the only definition of God that works, first of all, God is just a word that means origin. It means the most irreducible nature of existence, right? So we call it God and then it becomes all these other things. And even with Jesus to me is just someone who realized his oneness with the constant of being, which is beingness. So when you look at a photo like that and you're like, look at the infinite potential of planets and solar systems and stars. Well, the only thing that we have in common with that's a constant is beingness. So meaning if there is an alien species on another planet, and undoubtedly there is, they are conscious.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So Jesus doesn't have to go to them. They are, if you'll forgive some religious language, they are the Christ. They are using the Christ, which is awareness. They're using the same mechanism that makes me aware.
Yeah, see, I just don't want to think about it that much. Is how I feel. I just spent so many years thinking about it.
Well, and that wasn't fun for you?
Nope, I don't feel that way anymore. The way I feel about it is like, yeah, there's something else. Isn't that cool? But I'm not going to figure it out, and I don't want to do something. I don't want to pour time and energy into something that has no end point. Like, you know, if I could like find the answer, I'd go look for it, but there is no answer. So like, I don't want to.
Well, there's no answer you can know. You're not going to like it. There's
I know
only
I'm not
answers
gonna
you
like
can
it.
become. It's very, you're like, it's all good. You're really in a productive, good place. And like, I think when the sediment settles, the lake gets clearer, and that's just not where we're at right now.
Look, when I do mushrooms, I feel great.
Yeah, I saw you did mushrooms.
Oh yeah, doing mushrooms feels great. That's the only time I feel like it's just all of it, man. Like we're just all here, and it's great, and it's all the same stuff.
Well, that's exactly my point.
Yeah, but I don't feel that way all the time. The rest of the time, I'm just like, I can't think about this too much. I gotta. Otherwise, I go to nothing matters really quickly now. And then it makes it hard for me to get motivated to do things.
Well, I think the meaning of life is life, including the moments where you go nothing matters. I think in that moment, you are the universe having the experience of fuck this. And that's as valid of an experience as anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
You wanted to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, Taylor, I feel bad now because maybe you don't want to talk this way, but I'm like, if there was one thing that we could call God that's split into a billion, not even a billion, billions of billions and billions and billions and billions and billions of things, because it wanted to know what it was like to be a seashell. And it wanted to know what it was like to be a comedian estranged to her father. It wanted to play every game. And that'll never make sense to our mind because we don't want to think it's a game, but it's just... It's so in love with experience and exploration and expansion that like, even when you're like, here's an Alan Watts quote, right? He goes, an atheist is the greatest of God's creations because it's God got so lost in its own game that it stopped believing in itself.
Ooh.
It's actually the most sublime art piece.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if it's like a painting became self-aware and was like, nothing painted me. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's like, whoa, it's so its own thing that it cut itself from it flew away from the falconer completely. It's just a falcon. It's just a free falcon. You see a free falcon, you're like, Jesus Christ, like it's pretty great. Well, let me go back. Can I tell you why I told you that thing about like if there's life on other planets? Like, why that's not just a thought experiment, it's actually something that makes me feel less panic when I see the space photos.
Yes.
Is because anything that's happening there is happening on the same screen that this is happening. Meaning, if this will either do it for you or it won't. But your experience is known, right? Something knows your experience. Like your eyes are taking in this information, but there's something that registers it. And we could just call that consciousness. And that I would say is another understanding of God. God says, I am that I am. He's saying, I am amness. So it's the thing that's registered. So even if there is an alien over there, it is operating with the same consciousness. That's the one constant, no matter how many universes there are, no matter how many planets there are, no matter how many deviations of life there are, all of life in that being would be known with the same consciousness that I am known. And that you could call God. That's what we mean. The pursuit of the spiritual is looking for what doesn't change. It doesn't matter if you're tripping on mushrooms or having this conversation with me right now, or if you're happy or sad or 5 years old or 45 years old. The thing that knows your awareness never changes. That's why I'm 43. I don't feel any older. That's me getting in touch with the fact that there's a constant. And the thing that's constant is, I mean, you can close your eyes. Where does this end? Close your eyes and ask yourself, is there something, you don't have to, but I'll do it. Is there something, is there a boundary, when I'm looking at my own awareness, is there a boundary on the other side of which this awareness isn't?
I think I'm just dumb.
You're not dumb. I'm not explaining it well. I'm trying to get you in touch with your own infinity.
What I like, I like.
You said I think I'm just dumb.
Here's what I like.
I think we're on the Deepak Chopra network, and you're trying to bring it back to comedy.
I like to just go, I don't know. That was what feels most comfortable to me because it took me years to get there.
Yeah.
I think for years I was like, no, it's God and it's Jesus. And like, okay, I don't understand this. This is how I make sense of that. Okay, you created the world and it's of it. Like there was just so much of that now I just kind of live for the moments whether you're in nature or I'm like with my siblings where I just feel that like, oh, there's something bigger. Like there is meaning. There's something important about this. That is as spiritual as I like to feel. Like that's how I like to feel like there's some meaning. All of that makes me feel like there's none. Where I'm like, well, if it's cool, I guess. But like, if this doesn't matter really on a core level, like, why am I doing it? You know, just for fun. Like, I want to get to that place. I'd love to get to that place next where I just go like, it's just fun. We're just having fun. Isn't this fun? Let's go do that. Like, oh, I'm in pain right now. That's a different thing. That's a different experience.
Yeah.
Like, that's like the best situation where you like go through a heartbreak and it's like interesting to you where you're like, I've never been this hurt. Like, it's like, this is a different kind of pain and emotional, like, what, and it's why you like watch movies of people going through heartbreak. It's like, oh, I connect to this now. I get this now. Or like why people have babies because they're like, oh, this like opened up another part of my brain and like this new level of love that I got to that I want to experience. Like that thing you're talking about with whatever God is wants to experience everything. Like I feel that way as a woman where I'm like, I would like to have children, but I would like to adopt and I'd also like to be pregnant and I just like to feel all the things out of, you know, curiosity and a desire for the full experience of experiences that I want to have. I don't want to have every experience. Some of them are painful and scary and hard, but the ones that I do want to have, I'd like to get to all of them. That's interesting to me. And I like talking about that, but I don't like going to that very like nihilistic place of like, who cares?
I don't feel like it's who cares.
You don't feel like that?
No.
Okay.
That's what you got from me saying
that's
an alien
where
operates on consciousness. I was trying to say like it's all one party.
Oh, okay. That maybe I misunderstood. I was panicking in my head where I'm just like, yeah, no, we're so small. That's how I feel. I just go like, I'm just an ant. I feel like when I saw those space pictures, I felt like an ant carrying a big piece of cookie on my back. And everyone's like, look, it's so big. We're so small down here. Isn't that cool? And I'm like, no, it's not cool. Why are we carrying this cookie over here? And they're like, because then the cookie will be over there. And we're still ants down here. We're still ants. But yeah, there's a lot of other bigger stuff. And we're just really small. And I'm like, then someone just step on me. Like, you know what I mean?
I totally know what you mean. I have moments like that.
Yeah.
I don't just walk around holding it all together at all. I deal with that all the time. Yeah. I'm just saying the cleanest way I can say what I'm saying is no matter what is anywhere, the operating system is the same and it's all consciousness. It's all, if there's something that's conscious somewhere, even if it's just an ecosystem, even if it's just plant life or water, it's all being known with the same mechanism that I'm on. Meaning, what does that mean? What? That's what I was trying to say. It's not just a thought experiment. It's me saying I belong here. I'm not a visitor here. Again, Alan Watts says, we're not like, people say you came into the world. When you were born, you came into the world. Like Taylor showed up into the world. He said, a better way to say it would be you came out of the world. Meaning it's all one thing. That's the cliche of the spiritual be one with the universe. That's all one thing. I see photos, you could get pretentious and say, I saw photos of myself. I saw the photo of the only thing that's happening. It's all relative. Distance, they're small, we're big. It's like medium only exists in relation to small and large. If you have a medium ice cream and you walk out of the store, it's not a medium ice cream. It's just the size that it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, and we're only small in relation to them. It's all together. It's like I'm at home here. I'm not a mistake. They're me, I'm them. It's just a way of making me feel less anxious, I suppose.
Okay.
As opposed to going like, I'm just this and they make me irrelevant. It's the same thing.
Which some people like that. Some people like going, oh my God, I'm so small and nothing matters. And that's great. Some people feel that way.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's both. I think it's a paradox. It's like
I think the space pictures were a Rorschach test.
Hilarious. You saw what you want to see for sure. But I think yes, I think it's both meaningless and the most meaningful. I think this conversation we're having right now is the most meaningful thing in the world. And it's also, as the Buddhists would say, it's on fire. It's gone. It doesn't matter that we film it. At some point, those will be gone.
But that's what I'm saying. It's like, this is what someone in their car is having a panic attack right now, listening to this. Just pulling over.
You know what? I'm going to eat the Arby's now.
What? Yeah. Just who gives a shit? It's really, because like, do you feel that way? I was talking to Zach about this last night before I went on stage, where I was like, do you ever just feel, I think he might have said it, where I was like, do you ever just feel like so crazy that everyone's just like sitting there watching you talk? Like there's just 500 people in this room right now. Just like, he's like, oh my God. He's like, people put on makeup and they just came to sit here.
Yes.
And listen to us talk.
Yeah.
It's so weird. He's like, if somebody just like, he's like, if some other thing did come watch it, they'd be like, why?
I think if you could take one person out of an audience and put them in like the Mac commercials room, just an all white matrix room.
Yeah.
And we can't hear the audio of the comedian and we just hear what you say. You just see person Four. Just like distract.
Yeah.
Like that's pure insanity for sure. Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But everything is. I mean, okay. It's really tempting to just only talk about spiritual things. It's like
my brain is swollen right now.
There's a relief in going, it's both. It's like you're the most precious thing in the world, who you really are, but all these thoughts and feelings and emotions and memories isn't what you really are. Because when you were a baby, you were as you are.
I disagree.
Really?
Yeah.
You think? Well, I
don't think you were as you are.
Well, you hadn't built the thing called Taylor yet.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that thing that you built that we go around insisting that we are, sure, there's some constants in there. There's your personality and your preferences and stuff. We could say that's real, but a lot of that shifts. Like those beliefs change. Taylor, who's a Christian, has changed. Taylor, who is this. Taylor, who's not good at stand-up, has changed. You know what I'm saying? Like now we have Taylor, who is good at stand-up. So the interesting thing and the thing that we can rest in and feel peaceful in is the only thing that was consistent that whole time.
Do you feel connected to who you were as a child?
I feel like the same thing.
You feel like the same thing. So you, at like 8, you feel like the same thing.
I am the same thing.
But you feel it.
Yes.
That's interesting.
And then other times I go like, God damn, I have to reply to all these fucking business emails and I lose it.
Yeah.
But this, by the way, look to any myth for other examples of this. They're always trying to get something back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They need to go on a quest and regain their innocence, the fountain of youth or the Holy Grail. We want to get back to that place where we were less encumbered, where there were less things in between our true nature and, our experience, because that's where peace is. You can be like when you take mushrooms, I think what happens is a lot of the story dissolves. Mm-hmm. To that, why don't you tell me, instead of me telling you about your mushroom experience, why don't you tell me about what happened? When did you do them for the first time?
I did them for the first time, I guess it was 2020. Yeah, it was probably 2020.
Okay, not long ago.
Not that long ago.
During the pan.
Yeah.
Interesting.
We did them outside.
Okay.
And my friend Chelsea's done them a lot, and she was like, I think you'd like them. And so we did them, and I was like...
Where?
Huntington Gardens in Pasadena.
I mean, I'm a member. And
am I.
Yeah. I've also tripped at
Have
Huntington
you?
Gardens.
It's the perfect place. There are bathrooms.
Yep.
There's a cafe.
A lot of bathrooms. Oh, yeah.
But there's extensive grounds.
Me and my friend had high tea. You know how you can have tea?
Yes.
And it started kicking in while we were at tea. And
Amazing.
I was like, talk about your friend's feeling. That's kind of a synchronicity. I was like, this is ridiculous. We're like shaved apes sitting around eating tiny sandwiches being like, what do you think of the tea? It was totally a joke, but not a I keep imposing my beliefs on it. Not like a bad joke, a hilarious joke.
Yeah.
Look at what we're doing. Look
Yeah.
at the game we're playing now. So you did them. Where did they start kicking in? Just because I know.
They started kicking in that stretch by all the statues in the fountain.
Okay.
That stretch, and we sat
Rose
down.
Garden.
The Rose Garden.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's not the Rose Garden. The Rose Garden's a little further. I'm talking about the one with the long lawn, and at the end is the fountain,
yes.
and it's lined with
yes.
statues.
We always go another route. We don't go
I see.
Yeah, we go
you
on
go
the
through
inside.
the like villa.
Yep.
Whatever. Yes.
We're members. Huntington.org.
Yes. So good. So worth it.
Oh
by
yeah,
the
we
way.
go all the time.
Oh my God, all the time.
And when you have a baby, if you have a baby, you take your kid there.
Amazing place to
it's
bring a
amazing.
baby. That
They
place makes me
swim.
want to have a baby.
No, that's where you go to get real. You'll ovulate. You will.
Oh my God.
It becomes an ovulation station.
What do you think when people are like, you shouldn't have babies right now because everything's going to shit?
I actually have a bit about that. I'm like, do you think the scientists that are saying the world's going to end in 20 years, are they having babies? Like, I just asked the audience. I go, do you think they're having babies?
Some
Do
of
you?
them. I think.
I'm sure some of them are having babies.
I'm sure some of them are too.
Because no matter what, and I think there's something really beautifully human going on there, in almost like it's almost like Star Trek. You know how Star Trek's like in a utopia where we figured everything out? We tend to find a way. Other civilizations have gone away. I'm not saying it's a guarantee. And there's a good chance that we will go away too. But there's always this hope that's like one of the, like if aliens were studying us, they'd be like, I never cease to be amazed by your hope, even in the face of like horrible data.
Yeah.
That's why I think some of those scientists are having babies.
Interesting.
Yeah, but I'd love the data. I'd love to
Are
know.
you nervous as someone who's a parent of a young child?
I'll answer in a bit. It's like you
please.
climbed a mountain to talk to a comedian. Let me answer in a bit. I think it's funny that this never works. I think it's funny that people are afraid of flying because the plane might crash. And I'm like, but we're always in these airplanes. And then I put my arms out. Like, you're never not on an airplane.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
when you're in an airplane, yeah, you're in an airplane. But when you're on the ground, you're in these airplanes and you're the fucking pilot. And you keep eating cake and cholesterol full food. Like, there's danger.
Yeah.
So, like, yes, there are new dangers, but, like, there was a time that you and I, we wouldn't have been recording it. We would have been having a chat under a cherry blossom tree and would think Genghis Khan might come and chop our heads off. You know what I mean? Like, there's just, living in threat of elimination is not a new thing to human beings.
Right.
So now you've caught me being like, I don't spend too much time thinking about that as much as I'm like, we could die. What else is new? We should do everything we can to protect other people and protect my family and protect my friends and the whole world. But I'm also, I don't spend too much time being like, I don't know. I remember when Trump won and people were like, it's all gonna, and a lot of bad things did happen, but not the things they were saying in that green room.
Right, in that green room. Yeah. Yeah, that's
What do you think?
What do I think about you having kids?
No. What do you think about, do you worry about the planet ending and all that?
When I worry, I drink liquid death.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I think I have such bad anxiety that I worry about everything all the time. So it just gets really overwhelming to me. And I have to just stay focused on like what I have to do today and like come up with a new goal to have and figure out how to make meaning of things. Because again, it's really easy for me to just slip into like, I get exhausted by my fear and I don't want to feel that way anymore. And I just don't want to feel anything. I'm like, I can't. It's too much and it's too hard and it's too painful. And sometimes that is very liberating and you just go like, I just don't care and I'm fine and I'm just going to choose to enjoy this. And then other times it sends you into like a very deep depression of like, I don't, like I do feel that way. I feel that way when people say, why are you having kids when the world's going to end, et cetera. And I kind of feel like, why are we doing anything still? If it's just going to end. Like, it's not specific to kids. Like, why are we doing any of this?
Right. Yeah. Val and I'm always trying to work on this bit where it's like explaining life to my child.
Yeah.
It's like, Well, there's theme parks, and there's candy, and there's lobster. You'll like lobster.
You'll like lobster.
We all die one day.
Just slip that in between lobster and theme parks.
Yeah, I don't know how to make it work, but that's sort of the deal.
Yeah.
And we really don't like that. We want to put our names on buildings, and we want to have statues. But I know what you mean. The voice of some of my sadness can be like, who cares that there's a statue of Walt Disney here?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make a difference to him.
Here's a question. Because you don't seem like you feel like this now. Maybe I'm wrong, and you do. But you seem very, sort of evolved and spiritual and on a higher level, and like you just want to be happy above everything else. But when you were younger, coming up in comedy, were you like, I want to be the greatest of all time?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you still feel that way?
No.
That's okay. Doesn't that kind of suck?
But
do you miss it?
No, because I think I am one of the greats. I don't know if I don't know if you...
You feel like you did it. You made it.
I only say this because the difference becomes who's telling you you're shiny.
Okay.
Then we're back to the beginning of our conversation. And I know it's absurd to say I think I'm one of the greats, but I watch the greats, and then I watch what I'm doing, and I go, I'm doing what they're doing. You know what I mean? That's
wow, that's interesting.
you could wait for aforementioned Vulture to say Pete Holmes is one of the greats. Or you could just go ahead and be like, you know what? I'm meeting my own standard. Like, I'm doing it.
Okay.
And but it really helps to have like a family, and like I come home and Val's giving me little sweetie kisses. So there's different altitudes to fly at, right? And now we're in the middle. There's the spiritual one, which I'm going to stop doing because it's not really helping anybody. And the comments are like, Taylor doesn't like it. Stop Godsplaining.
No, Taylor does like it.
Well, we did talk a lot about it last time, and it was interesting. I'm curious to see where you're at. No.
Oh.
I'm curious to see where you're at. I wouldn't know. Leave any comment you want.
Leave any comment you want. We don't care. Speaking of nothing matters.
Right.
Your comment certainly doesn't.
Barking into a void. Barking into a void. Except every once in a while, the nice ones, the guy who posts them, Joe, will say like, look, this guy posted this really nice one. So
that is nice.
There you go. What were we saying? Oh,
we were talking about wanting to be the greatest of all time.
What I'm saying is, what I find interesting about spiritual pursuits, and I think this is really going to speak to you, is I find it paradoxical. The more that I meet my needs, my psychological needs, all that stuff that I was just dismissing, the false self, the Pete that's just a matrix of memories and feelings and opinions and preferences, past experiences and fears and all that stuff that I think is me. I was so dismissive of that and going like, that's all on fire. Who cares? Okay, well, let's change altitudes. That matters. Like meeting my needs, exercising, meeting my needs, meditating, meeting my needs with my family, meeting my needs creatively, making sure I do stand up at least X number of times in a month or whatever it might be. There's no more beautiful spiritual time for old Petey than after he had a great set. What is going on there? Meaning it's not a flaw. I don't think it's a mistake. Playing Taylor, the game Taylor, to an optimum place and getting in that state of flow where you're like, this is what I was meant to do, which is how I feel when I watch you do stand-up, for example. You found it. You're not pushing the river. You're just going along with the ride, and you're serving people. I know you probably don't want to hear that, but like people are sad, people are lonely, people are all these things, and there we are. Val and I had a good old hearty heart watching it and laughing at things that maybe are hard to say. It's beautiful. That's a gift. And when you're in that frequency, that's when I tend to be a little bit more like, it's all okay. It's all okay. So you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We don't have to dismiss it. So anyway, back to your thing about, unless you had a thought on that.
No, I'm deciding whether or not to ask this because it's such a hacky question, but I'm going to. Fuck it. Did you feel that when you got really happy and settled, were you afraid that you were going to get worse as a stand-up initially? Was that an initial fear of yours? That you then just at a certain point were like, oh, no, we're fine.
Right. Well, I think it's an okay question. I don't think it's a hacky question. I mean, it goes back to a lot of the relationships before, remember I was starting to say were modeled after what I thought was appropriate because of how my mom was to me. The example I always use, and again, this is why we stopped talking about it because we started talking about how terrible your dad can be. Well, my mom, just little things like that's a gaudy watch or whatever.
Right.
So I would look for people that would say that's a gaudy watch, and that's fine because that's what I thought I deserved.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then I met Val. And I found somebody who I loved and who loved me just for who I was and took no effort.
Yeah.
The test was always like, are you more yourself with them than when you're not? And that's not always right away, but like you ease into that.
Yeah.
And then she thought I was so funny. And then I was like, I'm just going to be like this. I'm just going to, and then you have that safety net under you again, which is like, it contributes to the fearlessness and it contributes to my ability to go like, I think I'm doing great. Because Val is modeling a higher vibration, a higher standard of love. Does that make sense? So you go on stage a little more fearlessly because you're not trying to win it.
That's really nice.
From the audience.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah. Is that hopeful?
That's super hopeful.
Oh, good.
I love that. That makes up for all that space shit you said earlier.
We'll edit that out.
That we're all just space and we're all the same matter, and that's why nothing does.
I didn't say
I
that.
know you didn't. I'm kidding. I'm twisting your words. But no, that is very helpful because you do. I think a lot of people worry about that. I think, and
Which
myself
part?
included, is like, well, once I'm like really happy and I have a family and I'm
Did you have that
settled
with medication? Because that's a
I
hacky
did.
question.
I had that with medication too. I think I was glad that I felt like I had something to say once I figured out the medication stuff, so that helped. But like the last May is when everything happened. And so it's been a year
with
of
your dad?
me. No, of me being, well, also that, but it's been a year of me being on like the right amount of medication and knowing exactly what I need and what's going on. And I do feel very different. And it has been a full year since I've had any like hypomania. And that has been something that I really had to like mourn the loss of because I looked back at my 20s and I looked back at so many moments in my 20s that those episodes were really like helpful in terms of like being really motivated and like really nailing something, whether it was like a taping or whatever. And like it would be, but you also have to remember the other side of it, which is like I was also like destroying personal relationships at the same time. Like it wasn't all just good, but it is this incredible feeling of like, it's like having the most self-esteem in the world, and hypomania isn't as intense as mania. So hypomania, you can like just feel like, well, I'm just really productive and I'm just really motivated. And like, we talk for a living, so you can just like kind of tell everybody why what you're doing makes sense and it's great. And they're like, oh, okay, all right, yeah, okay, I guess that makes sense. Even if they're like, that seems fast or like a lot, or
Well, also because it makes money, people won't question
that too.
it.
Oh yeah, people, yeah, exactly.
As long as it works, it's okay.
Right, exactly.
Even if it's not mentally helpful.
I felt that way, and in relationships too. Like every time I started a relationship, I was generally, now looking back, in a hypomanic state, and
I'm relating really hard.
Yeah?
In my first marriage, we moved upstate, and Val and I have a term for it. We call it mania, even though it's not diagnosed. We call it manic. I just say, just so you know, I'm manic right now. Meaning I'm aware that I call it infinite potential. My brain just lights up like Christmas. Don't pitch me a movie because I'll attach.
I'll make it.
And I'll make it.
yeah,
I'll write it. Sometimes I'll write something really
I got
fervently.
3 cameras in here. Yeah, we can do it.
Katie brought a bounce. But like, I just had to become aware that that's a dangerous state in the sense that I'll agree to things or I'll plan things. And the example that I was about to give you was I didn't know in my first marriage, this is noteworthy, I didn't know that I was sometimes manic. There was no vocabulary for that. And I agreed to move upstate, which was a terrible idea for me when I was manic, because I remember I had just come home from doing a set. And I was like, and I think that same day, isn't this sweet? It's like one of those early achievements. I had met someone who like knew a commercial agent who was going to get me a meeting or something.
Yeah,
and I was like, I'm on the launch pad, man. Let's do this from Sleepy Hollow, New York. And it was like terrible. And then when I crashed,
Yeah.
and I don't crash as hard as I'm up. That might be delusional, but I tend to go really up, and then I tend to just go to like a normal feeling low, but it is low. I'm like, what have I done? I don't understand what I was doing. So I relate. I just don't want you to feel alone in this. I think a lot of creative people relate. And I know what you're saying, where it's like you get level, but then you miss that. You maybe miss writing an entire novel in 48 hours.
Right.
Because
exactly.
you're just, if you stop, you might burn up or something. Like you might vanish.
Right. But then, the flip side of that is like canceling 3 weeks of work because you can't get on an airplane without scream crying. Like it's just like.
Did that happen?
There were times I had to just cancel. It was getting worse and worse, and I just had to cancel. Like
scream crying on an airplane?
I wasn't scream crying on an airplane.
But like
I was scream crying at home and couldn't stop, and was just like, I have to just say I'm sick or something, and I just can't do it.
And you can edit anything out. It's interesting to me. People don't talk that way. Like when we talk about mental difficulties or whatever you want to call them, I just like putting a label to, like, scream crying is interesting to me. I don't hear people talking about that. I don't hear people talking about, you mentioned panic attacks and stuff.
Oh,
Are those full, I think I'm going to die?
Yeah, there have been several nights like that where, like, a year ago, the crash that happened after like my last like hypomanic episode, during which I like got an apartment in New York and was just like, very like, I can do it.
Really?
And
You just went online and rented an apartment?
I was in, my flight was canceled and I got stuck in New York overnight, and I was in a hotel and I was going through some stuff, and I got like 2 hours of sleep and just made all these appointments at like 3 a.m. to go see. And I was flying out at 2, and I made all these.
I'm having a panic attack right now.
Are you?
No disrespect, but that is really freaking me out.
Yeah. And I went and looked at like 4 apartments from like 7 a.m. to like 11. And before I went to the airport, and just like was like, I'm doing this. And in between each appointment, I called like everybody in my life and just told them how great it was that I was doing it and why it was a great idea. And everybody was like, well, okay, yeah, that's, sure. And the next week, and then there's a bunch of other stuff that happened, but,
like what?
Oh, just like I was just going
just
I
rented a bad girl costume. I fought a little crime.
Yeah. I just like, I spent the entire flight home from New York, like, just like I was like, well, just go on. I just like got on a dating app for like 5 hours the entire flight home, and went on like 10 dates in a week. And I don't date. I'm like not someone who dates. I'm just in relationships, but I was like, I can fucking do this. This is easy. And it was. And, that's not, and then like a week later, like crashed, and I talked to my, I talked to my therapist about it, and she goes, okay, sounds like maybe you had some like hypomania going on. I said, what's that? And she goes, oh, I don't want to freak you out. It's only if it lasts longer than like 3, maybe 4 days. And I said, oh, it was like 7 or 8 for sure. And I did all this stuff, and she was like, oh, okay, yeah, we should probably talk to your psychiatrist then.
Wow.
So
what does the hypo mean?
I don't know. I think it just means like, it's just a way of differentiating between bipolar 1 and 2. You're asking me a question. I don't technically know.
No,
I've literally never. I've never been like, why is it hypo? Like, I don't know. It's just different. I think it's just a way of saying it's different than mania, because from what I have been told and
I
have
think it means it's
looked up.
hypoallergenic.
Oh, that's what it. Oh, okay.
Because I can't not know.
Yeah.
It means it's very clean and pure.
Yeah.
Did you get the apartment?
Yeah, still have it. Yeah, because I was like, we're just going to make the best of this, and there's a reason I'm doing it, and it's fine that I did it, and I'm going to do it, and it's great. And I don't hate that I did it. Like, I could have not done it, absolutely, for sure. But, like, I am, like, most of the decisions I made during these episodes, I was able to spin it, afterward or later, and sometimes it motivated me to do things I should have done also. So it's like not black and white.
I couldn't be relating harder. Can I make a comparison?
Yes.
Whenever I watch a cult documentary, they really do. They edit out all the parts where they're like, let's call it the cause. The cause got me sober, and I actually, lost weight and gained all this money, and I met my wife. And then they're like, but that guy was an asshole, But I feel like they cut out the first part because we don't do well. Human beings don't do well with these stories that require a certain level of subtlety, like subtle thinking, which is what you're doing. Which is like, okay, I'm not getting an apartment, but there's kind of, look, I'm going to take it out of you. I like that state, even though sometimes I move upstate with my ex-wife.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And
what do we do with that?
Yeah, I would go, I just realized I was like, oh, this is like a pattern throughout my 20s where I would like break up with somebody and then like days later be in a new relationship, essentially. Just so little time in between.
That's the infinite potential of it.
It
you're
is.
Like, I can do this.
And you're like, I'm going to be fine, so I can get out of this, and I'm at my most attractive and confident, and my career's going amazing. Like, no matter, like, you were just, it feels great. Even when you're in, like, a mixed episode where you're, like, also maybe, like, mania is, like, really hard on your body. Like, even when you feel, like, great, you're also just, like, really irritable, and you're, like, upset, and it's not, like, totally pleasant, but the highs are so, like, I have such vivid memories of it. Like, one of, like, the darkest, like, 2019, the summer of 2019 was, like, one of the darkest periods of my life. But it began with, like, hypomania. And I remember walking down the street after a set at the Cellar, just feeling like, and, like, I was like destroying my relationship. I was just like not in a good space and feeling like on top of the world and just going like, I have my whole life ahead of me and I'm going to be amazing. I'm one of the best of all time and I'm incredible. And I'd had this amazing set and I was just like, New York's incredible. And like, it's hard to miss that and also feel like, oh, is that just not real? Like that was like an imbalance. That was like a chemical imbalance in my brain. I know now, and I know now how everything happened and how I shouldn't have handled certain things. And it's just like, it's been it's something I'm still untangling, honestly, and making peace with. And again, sort of mourning. It's like, it feels like college where like, I didn't have like a college experience really. So when people talk about college where they're like, oh my God, it was incredible and amazing. I could never do that again.
Right.
Like that was not healthy, but it was incredible at the time. And I have such great memories.
Val and I were talking about that last night. Because we went to a party and we're like, we're the lame parents. Like, we're super lame. Yeah. And we were like, I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting idea. Because, again, going back to how others see us and how we see ourselves. And you and I both can have moments where we're like, I'm not shit and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I just wonder if that, and I'm not saying you need the mania, but I do think you need to, like, counterbalance the Taylor that's like, I'm not shit, I have a big head, or whatever, that's from your act.
Yeah.
Whatever your self-doubt is, I do think it's natural and necessary to have times where you go like, I'm one of the greats. That's why
I don't have that anymore.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. I don't think you need the mania, but you might want to do, look, oh God, I almost recommended loving kindness to you. But like there's certain, forget meditation, forget any spiritual practice, but there's something to say about like if it's after you brush your teeth, looking in the mirror and saying, fucking killing it. You know what I mean?
Right. And
that shit works. It's embarrassing, but it works.
I think I can feel that way where I go, everything's going really great. Like, I think I am a successful, hardworking comedian. But I don't know how to get back into that headspace of like, not that I ever felt like I'm the greatest of all time, but I was like, I could be someday. And I feel like I lost that when I leveled out. And now I'm just like, you're very successful, but there's always somebody better or just as good. And it's so subjective and it's hard to say. And who's to say anyone's the greatest of all time? And who are you to think that? Like all of that has sort of just, again, evened out and I miss that high of like, I'm going to be on the Mount Rushmore of comedy.
Well, I think you will be for sure. I'm not just saying that. We watched it. We were like, I know you don't like this, so I'll say it to the box over there. It was flawless. I said
That's
it
very
to
nice
you.
of you
It
to
really
say.
was flawless. And because envy is one of the best compliments, I was really watching it going like, because I can have thoughts where I'm one of the greats. And I can also have the thoughts where I'm like, I paused it, opened up my Word doc, my stand-up Word doc, and made notes about 2 bits that should be together because there's a theme between them. Because I was watching the way that you were.
So it wasn't flawless.
No.
No.
You were doing something that I was like, I should be doing that.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Like you were bringing up a theme and then you'd sort of deviate to go to that theme and then you'd come back to the theme. And I was like, fuck, like really.
That's so nice.
Yeah, like I really think envy isn't always ugly. Envy is just like a really true, honest, that's so good, I want it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It wasn't ugly. I was like, I don't want you to have it. I was like inspired. I was Selena Gomez.
I was Selena Gomez.
Yeah. I was like,
truly,
she can do it. And when I watch great stand-up, I saw Andrew Santino, not to dilute your compliment, but I saw Andrew Santino. I followed him not that long ago, and he was up there giving so zero fuck that I was like, oh, right, we can give zero fuck.
I just watched
like,
Dave.
You're able to.
I just watched Dave for the first time, and that show
Attell?
made me feel that way. I did watch Dave Attell on tour with Bert, and that also was like, oh my God. But I watched the show, Dave, and Santino's on it, and he's so good in it.
Oh, okay.
And you're like, oh my God, I should get better at acting.
That was one of my questions. What were you going to say? I'm sorry, I don't want to cut you off.
What was I going to say?
Santino's
I was
so
going to
good.
say, seeing your... well, first off, Dave is such a good show, and I was like, oh my God, this made me feel...
I gotta watch Dave.
Like, oh my God, it's so good. It's one of the best comedies I've ever seen.
Really?
Yeah, it's
If you're
so
saying
good.
That, edit all of this out. I don't recall getting a check from FX for this. I'm just
It's
kidding.
truly so
Look,
good.
I'm writing it down, Dave.
It's really, really good. And I thought of it because you brought up Santino, and he's in it, and he's very good in it. But I felt that way watching you, because I never see you do stand-up live. Like, I did your Largo show once, and that was cool, but that was a while ago.
Yeah, do the next one.
I would love to do the next one. That's not me fishing to do your Largo show, but
no, this is how it's booked.
That's it.
It's literally like, oh
this is how we do it. Oh
it's
yeah,
like, it's
you.
a real Kringus. I'm a Kringus.
Like, at a certain point, you know, like I've noticed on Instagram, you've been posting more clips lately.
Yeah.
Which I really enjoy, because you're like, oh yeah, like, because you just, once you are one of the greats, as you've said about yourself.
What a nightmare.
Like, truly though, like once you're at a certain level, you're like, oh, I don't have to be, like, you don't have to put out clips.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have, people are going to come see you if you're put, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to do all this stuff we're doing down here. Like, you know, so like, you don't have that same, and I feel this way too. After this second special came out, I was like, I can maybe chill for a minute.
Relax,
but after the first one, I was like, I got to put out another one to prove the first one wasn't a fluke.
Yeah.
You've put out so much material at this point that like you can tour forever and people will come see you.
Yeah,
and that's a level not a lot of people get to. That's a very that is a 1% of comedy. But as a result, you know, you haven't put out a special in a while that I've watched, right? It's been a while, true. Right? And so seeing you live is different than clips and specials anyway. And so seeing you live was so fun, because it just like, it like rocketed me back. And I think I said this to you, like back to like college.
Yeah.
Because your first album came out my senior year of high school, and not to date myself, I'm 22. But I love when young people do that. Came out my senior year of high school, and I remember quoting it in college to friends. Like I like had all my friends in college listen to it, and we would quote it all the time.
Oh, wow.
And like Dustin and I still quote some of your jokes, I realized, because I was like, I went back through and was looking at it this morning going, I gotta tell him which bits specifically. And then I was like, oh, Dustin and I still do, where's Tom Petty from? On the sometimes we go, that whole bit about you just didn't know is so funny. I'm sorry, I'm quoting your own bits. Your hat is gone, Bradley. Like, these are the things we were. Bradley, your hat is gone, Bradley.
Dylan, you just had a banana. I can't believe I'm also enjoying this, but I haven't thought of that joke in so long.
Must be free. Like, there were so many bits on that album that were so quotable, and we still do it.
Nice.
And that's how you met your wife.
Yes,
like,
that's right.
These are and look, Dustin and I do our own bits to each other too. But
I hope so.
I was just like, oh, I did that in college, and I was like, we still do that.
Wow,
isn't that fun?
That's the best, and that's what I was trying to say. Like when I'm like, people need what you're doing. When Val and I say Selena Gomez now, you know what I'm saying? You want to permeate someone's life.
Right.
You want to become a bit that they do to one another.
Yeah.
And that still really makes me happy. So thank you for saying all that.
So anytime we're like, who's that? What is it? Where's Tom Petty from?
Yes. And a shout out to Brian Regan, who I'm like, that's very Brian Regan.
Oh,
Where's Tom Petty from?
I know, but he's got Brian Regan's got so many lines like that too that you just love to say out of context.
The big yellow one is the sun.
Yes, the big yellow one is the sun. I just said very solemnly, big yellow one is the sun.
Well, he's I mean, I think the greatest. See, that's my point. Do people put Regan on one of the greats? I mean, we do, but like Time Magazine or whoever the authority.
I think they do.
I don't know. Do they?
Who's the authority?
But that's what I'm saying. They're going to say Rock, Chappelle.
I think Brian Regan's up there for sure. I don't know.
For us.
I don't know.
I was trying to say, I bet
if he's not, I'm definitely terrified for myself.
Well, people who know, and Brian Regan, I think, has to know that he's one of the best. That's what I'm saying. But that's the corner that I feel like I turned, which is like, I'm no longer waiting for someone to tell me. That's what we're saying.
That's good.
I'm still trying to not be uncomfortable with the fact that I said that, but I actually don't. I'm just forecasting that I might feel uncomfortable that I said that.
That's fair. Well, and there's so many. I don't know. I'm at this point now where I just know so many comedians, and I know how many of them are good. That I think that's also part of why it's hard for me to feel that way, because you just know how many good comedians there are, and like. Yeah, the Mount Rushmore of comedy. You're like, I guess Kevin Hart's probably like if we're talking about like what most people think, it's like who's Mount Rushmore of comedy? Comedians Mount Rushmore of comedy, the general public's Mount Rushmore of comedy, stand-up comedy fans.
One, a comedian being interviewed. Mount
right,
Rushmore.
exactly.
Like you have different answers.
Totally different answers.
You should. Sometimes you want to shine a light over here or over there. You can't just say the same four people. So you have your people that you say.
I'll make you feel better about having a moment of self-esteem. I have a friend who started dating a guy, and she goes, he's a really big stand-up comedy fan. And I said, really? And she goes, yeah, he didn't know who you were though. And I was like, then he's not really a big stand-up comedy fan. Like I had that. Isn't that so fucked up? I am that at that point where I'm like, if you're like a huge stand-up comedy fan, I'm in the conversation. You don't have to like me. And she goes, I go, who does he like? And she goes, he likes Bill Burr. I said, everyone fucking likes Bill Burr. Yeah, and then she goes, his favorite is Tommy Johnigan. And I went, fuck, okay.
So he knows.
So he is a big stand-up comedy fan, and I'm just shit. It changed that fast. He does like
Tommy Johnigan.
Yeah.
You're like, fuck!
I'm like, no, he knows what good is. Not that Bill Burr's not good, but Bill Burr is like, it's like someone going like, I love In-N-Out. And you're like, we all love In-N-Out.
That's right.
Shut up.
Yes.
Like, you're not this great aficionado of stand-up. Like,
I like going to movies on the weekend.
Yeah, he's like, Bill Burr is so good. He's the Avengers now. Like, everybody loves Bill Burr.
Yeah.
And then to be like, no, I really like this amazing comedian too, that you're like, oh, okay, all right. So you know a lot about stand-up comedy, actually, and it's just me.
That's so good.
I'll post more clips. I get it.
Speaking of clips, you have to note the time. That's a great clip. That's a great clip. I'm sorry to be transparent, but instead of Joe, our guy, just scouring 2 hours, just post that. That was hilarious. I noticed something. Bill did I mentioned he did my Largo, and this is Bill. Try and agree with everything I'm saying. And Bill says no to start every sentence. I'll give you an example. Just like mirror me, like you're on a bad date. Just agree and say back to me what I'm saying.
Okay.
You know what I mean? You go to the supermarket. There's like 4 cereal aisles now.
Yeah. There's like 4 cereal aisles.
No, there's 4 cereal. Like, you have to say, even if you're just saying like, yeah, that's a lot of cereal. No, really, you're going in. It's like someone unseen in the room is disagreeing
arguing?
with Bill. He was like, I thought it was good. No, that movie was good. No, people are shitting on it. It's like, what is happening?
That's so
Bill's
funny.
saying another thing in the room.
That's so funny.
There's so much. Like, can I ask you the generous question?
Please.
I think this is generous. Let's see if I can remember. So you have that joke where it's like, instead of saying you are bipolar, you can say I have bipolar, right? This is just a little behind the Joker's studio. God, shoot me in the face. Shoot me in the face.
Put a graphic on that.
Oh my God.
This is just a little behind the Joker studio. Ba-da-ba.
Brought to you by Liquid Death. I, just as a joke crafter, I know you love a lens crafter and a joke crafter. Here's how the joke goes in my memory. You go, my therapist said, if it makes you feel better, you can say you have bipolar instead of you are bipolar. You go, that's a little bit like someone saying, no, I was saying you were being a bitch. Right? That's the joke. And it's very lean. It's like Toro sushi. No fat on it. It's real good. When you first did it, I was wondering if there was a process, because it seems to me the first time you do that joke, you go, that's like someone when they say, I didn't say you are a bitch, I'm saying you're being a bitch.
Yeah.
Am I right? Was there a process, and then you were like, can I get away with just saying, because it's very lean. It's interesting to me that the audience followed you with no casualties.
You know what's so funny? That's the first joke I wrote about being bipolar.
Oh, wow.
And it worked so well. I tried it at Comedy Off Broadway in Kentucky, and it worked so well that I remember I said to the crowd, I was like, fuck, now I got to do jokes about this now. Because I said, I was like, I haven't done jokes about this yet, and I don't know if I'm going to, but let me just try this. And I tried it, and it worked so well that I was like, okay, all right, I guess we're doing it now.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I love that that's what came of it. You tried it, it killed so hard, and you're like, I have to do an hour on this now.
And then I was like, because I thought a lot about it, because like when I talked to Dustin about it, Dustin Nickerson, very funny comedian. And he when I first told him another joke that's in the special that is not a joke, it's just something he literally said to me, which was so funny, is I told him about being bipolar, and he was very nice and sweet and said all the right things your best friend's supposed to say, and then said, you know, your mental illness was like your middle name. I didn't know what it was, but I knew that you had one, which is an incredible line. I said, can I use that?
Yeah.
And then I did. And he was like, initially he was like, well, now, you know, you have your next hour, you can do your next hour on that. And I was like, I don't want to do an hour about having bipolar 2, because that makes it feel like everything I felt when I found out that I was frustrated by or ashamed of was that I felt ashamed of it. Like it changed who I was, and what I don't know, that people were going to see me differently. And really, like I said in the special, which is something my psychiatrist said to me, which was just that this is just information about you, and now you know how to take care of yourself. That's all. And then you just adjust, and then everything's great. It's not like this bad thing. It's just information about who and how you are.
Optimize how you work.
Exactly. That's it. It's fine. Yeah. So once I wrote that joke, I was like, okay, I don't want it to be a huge part of the hour, but it is a significant thing that happened to me and something I do want to talk about. But if it's too much, it's going to, I think, make it seem like this traumatic thing. So I like the arm floaties bit because it's communicating that. It's just like, hey, it's just something about you. Like, I know I just spent like 6 minutes on it, but that's not the entire hour. That's not all I'm going to talk about here. It's just a part of me. It's a piece of me. It's something I learned this year. And when I wrote that joke, I was like, now I have to make sure that I'm writing things around it that, because if it was just that joke, it still sounds like a bad thing. It sounds like you're being a bitch. To
explain yourself.
Yeah. So I'm like, now I have to make it clear that I'm not receiving it as a bad thing.
This is funny. It reminds me of when a big rapper, someone puts out a diss track against them, and then they're like, well, now I got to do. But you want that? Like you had a reason to write now. Like you didn't want to be misunderstood.
Yeah, I was afraid to write about it because I just didn't want to say the wrong thing, and I didn't want to make people feel bad. And I just didn't want to mess up, I guess. I was like, well, if I'm going to talk about it, I want people to... I don't want to make fun of it and be like, oh, I'm this fucking thing now. Look how fucked up I am. Like, I didn't want it to be that. So I was nervous about that. And that was the only, like, I think we tried to put like that joke in a sizzle reel or something, like, just the worst. Tried to use it to promote something. And I was like, we can't just use that joke alone without more context, because I don't want people to see it and think that I'm like, fuck being bipolar, like I suck for this. Like, that's not...
I hate being bipolar, it's amazing. That sort of thing.
Yeah.
But that is sort of making a joke out of it without fully exploring it.
Yeah.
I think that's really interesting. But you had a reason to write, and I think and then there was urgency behind the hour. It's also, it was happening now. You're never gonna feel the way you feel about it right at the beginning ever again. So you had to put it together. Yeah,
and you just, as you get older, you go, I don't need to do all the jokes I come up with about everything. So I was like, maybe I shouldn't do any jokes about it. Maybe that needs to be something I keep for myself. And I thought about it for a long time and ultimately decided I wanted to talk about it. But I was like, well, you can't take that back. You can't, then everybody knows. Like, I don't know. And then I was like, but that's why you should talk about it, because the fact that you don't want people to know is sad and ridiculous and part of the stigma. And so that's why you should be doing jokes about it. So it was very complicated. There was a lot of feelings I had about it. And like, that's where I'm at with the stuff with my dad, where like, I have jokes I've written about what happened with my dad, but I have a lot of complicated feelings about it, where I'm like, is this something I want to put out there? Is this something I want other people to know? Is this fair to talk about the worst thing somebody else did, even though it happened to me and affected me? Is it entirely mine to, be public about and tell my side?
You mean what led to the falling out?
Yeah.
The things he said.
Yeah. They just, there's a lot, but it's just, there's...
Was money involved?
No, like money wasn't involved. I wish there was money involved.
You wish it was just cash.
I wish it was that simple.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it wasn't that. It just like, I think as you get older, I think you can make a lot of excuses for your parents, and it's hard sometimes to realize how bad certain things were until you're older. And I used to have a joke about it, about like, you don't realize your parents did certain things that were really bad until you talk to other people and they're like, fuck.
Right.
And I think everybody has that experience.
Yep.
It's pretty common, but even that makes you go like, everybody's parents did fucked up shit. And you have to hit like a certain breaking point where you go like, oh no, this really isn't okay. And
yes, but
then at the same time, I have a lot of empathy, I guess, and sympathy and honestly pity for where he's at. And I don't want to be the sort of artist who just like burns everything to the ground anymore, or just goes like, everything is material for me to play with. And like, this is my next one-man show. Like I get nervous about that. And I've tried to be careful about it over the years when I do talk about parents or exes or whatever, that I'm always trying to make it sound like it's also my fault.
Well, you did a great job with that. There's a part of your special where you're kind of saying it right into the lens, where you're like, you turned him into your floaties, and that wasn't a safe relationship for him. Yeah. That was as scathing as anything you said against anyone else, and it was clearly against yourself.
Oh yeah, that's Dustin told me that. He's like, that's the most vulnerable part of the special, is where you take responsibility for what happened with insert my ex-fiance's name here. And I'm like, yeah, like that's
Brandis.
Yeah.
It was Brandis, right?
Brandis?
Yeah, Brandis. Not Brandeis, Brandis. That's really, really interesting. I like what you're talking about, because I think there's a certain point where it's not... whiny or naggy or weak or bad, but you have to go like, hey, my shit is my shit, and what happened wasn't really okay, and that's okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I have certain family members, I'll complain about my family, and I can still see the program they're running where it's like, yeah, they did the best they could, or whatever. Is like, we didn't have it as bad as the Johnsons. Remember the Johnsons? They wore Kleenex boxes for shows or whatever it was. Or at least we had this, or at least we had that. And that's all beautiful. And those are nice defense things that kind of keep things copacetic and running inside. That's fine. I'm for that. I still have some of those programs, and they benefit me. But I also, through therapy, found that it's okay at some point to go like, yeah, no, my parents didn't hit me, or whatever you want to say. But there was this, and that hurt me in this way, and that's okay. I don't think anything is gained in having this like the Great Depression mentality where it's like, sure, my parents did this, this, and this, but have you seen the value of a dollar? There's bigger fish to fry.
Right.
It's like, go ahead and fry your fish. Your fish are valid, right?
Right.
Seems to be the lesson you're learning.
Yeah, where you're like, they fed me, so I can't be mad about the psychological torment. Like that kind of thing where you're like, no, that's not. Doesn't Rock have that bit about like, you're supposed to, like, I have put a roof over your head.
Kids.
Yeah, and it's like, that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah. I have a bit about it too, where my daughter didn't thank me. I cooked her lunch and she didn't say thank you. And I was like, yeah, I yanked you into this. I sort of owe you.
Yeah.
You don't owe me anything. You don't have to
yanked you into this.
I thought it was so funny too.
That's so
I've
funny.
only done it once and it worked okay. But I also turned down my parents. I was like, your father worked hard to send you to college. It's like, he fucking should have. He yanked me into this.
Yeah,
This is spiritualizing it, but I was just nothing. No thing is another way to look at nothing. Meaning I was just totally fine. And then suddenly I'm peeing. I'm like, I have man boobs, and like peeing on my own pants and stuff. Like, you should make me lunch.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. That's so funny.
I would love to give you my hour and just be like, can you rewrite this?
Are you concerned about writing jokes as a parent? Like, are you going to run your jokes about
Leela?
Yeah. Past her?
It's interesting. Maybe
if you have any.
I have some jokes about, what is a joke I had about her?
She's too young right now, but.
I have a joke about pulling down her diaper and pushing her butt against the window of Val's car.
Right,
But then she started pooping, and so I'm smearing poop.
But she's
around.
a baby.
I agree. But it did occur to me that I was like, she might not like it. Like I'm trying to stay in touch with the part of me that when my parents would tell some story, usually about my brother, like, remember when he sang the meow, meow, meow song and he really hated it?
Yeah.
So I don't want to do that. But I'm also like, I don't know, we treat Leela like she's a celebrity, and I don't mean that in a weird way.
Yeah.
I'd be sort of nervous talking. Like, I just want her to like me so badly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's so funny.
Like, if she pays attention to us, we're like if she holds my hand, I'm like, like, there's no...
That's so funny.
I guess this might be self-serving, but we really don't feel like we own her. We just can't. So when she chooses us or like snuggles with us watching TV, we're just like, she's also pretty fierce.
Yeah.
So she doesn't always want to snuggle. So when she does, you're like really, really into it.
She's like a cat.
She is like a cat.
So if you ever do have a joke about her, you probably will be like, is this cool with you?
I think so.
Yeah.
I do that with Val.
Yeah.
One of my favorite memories is when we were doing Crashing. I was just like, I don't know. I've called Val so many nicknames over the years, but I was like, is it okay if we're riffing and I say Boo, or so, let's say I was calling her Boo, and I call the actress Boo. She's like, that's fine. But then she was like, there was one nickname that she didn't want me to use, and it was really sweet. She was like, let's say it was Senator Lonely Pants. She was like, just don't call her Senator Lonely Pants. And I was like, you do care.
That's really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so, I feel very strongly about that in relationships now.
Running it by?
Yeah. Where when I was younger, I was kind of like, this is what it is.
This is what it is. You signed up for this.
This is what you signed up for. And then like a few years ago, I started being like, if there's ever anything that you don't like, it's gone. It's out.
Yeah.
Like, I had a joke about something my grandma said that I ran past her before quarter life. And she like, at first was fine with it and then thought about it for a day and was like, you know what? Maybe not. And I was like, gone, done.
Really?
Yep.
What was it? You just do it.
I just do it. I'm like, oh shit. I'm sorry. Pete asked. No, but it's like, and it was something I didn't think was that bad at all. But like, it's up to everybody. So like,
yes.
I think.
I'm trying to think. I had a joke about Val having big boobs, and somebody sent me a screen grab when my special aired. The number of people that Googled Pete Holmes' wife boobs, and kind of drove home just what an age we're living in.
Yeah.
First of all, don't Google it. Nothing comes up.
Nothing comes
up.
But
who do you think I'm dating?
Right.
And then, it made me realize just how interconnected and how everything is available. And so it isn't just me saying she has big boobs. It's potentially people looking at her in a specific way, or which is her business in a peripheral way. Yeah. So that made me more sensitive to it.
Yeah, it's just and it's just figuring it out. I mean, my special came out during COVID, at the beginning of COVID, and so my life changed a lot during like quarantine, and that was a weird time to be like. And also, I was like dating somebody who's also a public figure, a comedian. And I think like that was interesting to go through that of like, oh, this is like a very public, not that like, you're not like fucking Bennifer or anything. Like no one gives a shit. But some people like,
no, I remember
people
that.
ask,
that was a part of our quarantine, that apartment and your two heads.
Yeah, it was. You're like, we'll do a web series and we'll do a podcast.
And if I saw that, I would be taken back to the feeling of like, 2 weeks. This is 2 weeks.
That's hilarious. That's so funny. No, and I'm like, I'm so grateful for like that period of time. But like it was, and I think we did a really good job when we did break up. Like, I think we were super respectful and like didn't talk about it. But like, you just have people DMing you about it. And like, I had somebody on the street in New York come up to me and be like, oh my God, I'm listening to so-and-so's podcast. Like, that's so cool. And like, talk to me for a little bit. And then was like, is this too personal a question? Can I ask if you got, and I'm like, sure, you can ask, I guess. Like, it's just a weird thing where you forget. Yeah. But I was so, I was really, you put a lot out there and then you forget. It's the same with doing jokes about like your sexual preferences. And then everybody's like, so you like it this way? And you're like, who told you that? Oh, it was me. Yeah. So it's the same thing where like now going forward in relationships, like it's, I don't anticipate being in that situation again where I'm dating another comedian where we're having people yell our names at each other at shows. And I don't anticipate that happening again, but like it does make you go into things going like, okay, how much am I going to share of my personal life, going forward based on the new information I have? Like, I don't really post my family either because I just, people are weird.
I think about this I know it's such a cliche, but I had this revelation that ended in "you're your own worst enemy," which is a cliche, unfortunately, because as I was having the revelation, I was like, the world needs to know this, but it's become just a trope, or a maxim, like you're your own worst enemy. But it's really true. I worry about my Alexa or whatever snooping on us, but it's me who talks about whatever, jerking off or some weird thing that if my Alexa leaked it, I'd be like, hey, but it's you. But what's the difference? It's just a story I tell myself that I'm like, but I leaked it. Similarly, if the government was putting something in the air that was raising my cholesterol and increasing my chance of dying, I'd be in the streets picketing. But if it's me eating French fries at 3 a.m., I'm like, I'm King Ralph. 1984's King Ralph. And I'm just loving life. But it's me that's murdering me.
Yeah.
And it's me that's spilling my privacy.
Yes.
Nuts.
Yeah. So it's just more, you just got to think 3 steps ahead before you do the Val Boob joke.
Well, that's what it is. It's not even kids as much as I'm just realizing. Like, the joke I always reference is I have a bit called I Hate My Girlfriend's Friends, and I really like that joke, but like, it's awkward having dinner with my in-laws, and I know they've probably seen it.
Yeah.
Because there's a whole part about how I don't like in-laws. I don't need to double up on parents.
Yeah.
I've never been with my parents and been like, I need more of this shit.
Yeah.
And it ends with, what are we going to fish? I fuck your daughter.
Yeah.
Which is a good line.
Which is a great line. And you're like, and I don't feel that way, but
No.
I do.
I don't and I do.
Yes.
We're back to paradox. Can it be both?
It's both.
I've grown past that, and it's still kind of true.
Yeah.
You hate me, but you love me, but I love you, and I hate you, and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I dated. I had a moment with someone I was dating where they were like, they heard a joke I did about like wanting a guy who like gives up on his dreams and just stays home and takes care of my kids.
Wow.
And they were like, I feel like that's really what you want. I'm like, it's not, but it is, but it's not.
Yeah.
Like that joke was about what I thought. I was in a place in my early 20s where I was like, what would actually work practically? Like for me, it probably this. And I thought it was very funny, but it didn't mean that like everybody I dated while I was telling that joke and after, I was just like, can't wait till they give it up. Like I didn't feel that way at all. I wanted somebody who was really into their work and their job. Like, of course I did. But in that moment, it's also true that if I, you know, at 25 or whatever, met somebody who was like, had this dream, but was like, you know what? Let's have kids instead. Like that also would have been great. Like it's both.
I also think it's a whole council up there. It's a whole boardroom. And I think one of the things that comedy does is it gives the microphone to different aspects of your personality that you usually repress.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, let's get the horny guy. Horny is always my go-to because when you're horny, sex makes a lot of sense. And when you're not horny, it doesn't
crazy.
make any sense.
Yeah.
But I think that's like a lot of, when you're hungry, food makes a lot of sense. And when you're not hungry, when you're desperate, you know, when you're this, when you're that. So when I watch, for example, Bill Burr, who I know is a compassionate and loving and kind person, and he goes on stage and he's letting certain parts of his psyche have the mic, that's actually, I think it can be a service. It can be interesting and difficult at times because that's what it's like up here, interesting and difficult. Sometimes you do have a voice that says like, I just want a guy that would give up on his dreams and be with me.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think there's a real loneliness in thinking you're the only one. We're back to am I the only one that's hearing that? Yeah. It's like, I remember, I haven't thought about this in a while, but when I got stoned one time and I went to, you ever go to bed, but it's just kicking in? Like you thought you were getting, like you ate an edible or something. Yes. Have you ever done weed?
Yeah. Okay. I used to use edibles like every night and then it turned on me.
Oh. I know. Yeah, that happens to a lot of folks.
I know.
I would take an edible and then I'd silly go to bed and it was too strong and now I'm just in bed stoned. Like you thought it would help you sleep, but you're just like riding the hurricane and being really stoned. Yeah. But I was like, oh my God, stand-up is beautiful because it's looking at what it's like to have a brain and then reporting back to the tribe. And then they all go like, oh, it's not just me. It's not just me. And that's, again, like we're our own worst enemy. That seems so obvious, but I think that's actually really special if you can go in, find weird thoughts, present them proudly, and have other people who either don't have the interest or the time or the luxury to do that go, oh, I'm less alone, I'm less afraid, all that sort of stuff. Yeah. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, do you have any God? So zero God?
I just don't know. Yeah. I don't have zero God. I just don't know. Yeah. I have very profound moments of like, oh man, whatever it is, I feel it, love it. It's great.
We didn't really finish your mushroom story like that. Was that one?
Yeah, that's how I felt. I just felt like, wow, like it was the most empathetic, compassionate, at peace I had ever felt, and was just like, it's really all fine. Like, I have a lot of feelings about death and dying where I'm just like, well, if it's gonna happen, like, what are we even doing? Who cares? Like, this is pointless. And then on mushrooms, I'm like, because it's just not yet, just not now. And when that happens, that'll be fine too. And right now it's fine. Like, but I don't feel that way naturally. That is a mushroom specific feeling.
So there's no, but you wouldn't say you're an atheist. You're just sort of like, I don't know what's going on.
Agnostic, I guess.
Agnostic.
Yeah.
Oh, that's agnostic.
If somebody like told me, I'm very open to whatever. Like, I think nothing sounds super crazy to me unless it's, I know exactly what it is. Yeah. That sounds crazy to me. But if people are like, I think maybe it's just, we're all connected and maybe we come back as something else and maybe not, like that that's very attractive to me.
Not so much close your eyes and found a boundary on the other side of which it is not.
Look, that will just make me, I've always had that. Like, since I was little, I had a lot of that. Like, well, why is it like, why are we, like, don't look at your hands too long. Like, that kind of thing. That's the feeling I don't like, where there's no resolution to that feeling. You just got to watch TikTok and get your mind off of it.
I know what you mean.
You know?
It's either fun for you to go like,
That's not fun for me.
How am I doing this?
Yeah, I'm like, I barely, did you see that? Didn't even think about it. I'm not even thinking about this.
Well, do you think about it or do you just remember that it happened? Like, which is happening?
That's what I'm saying. I hate this.
Moving?
I hate what we're doing. I hate it so much. I just want to have hands and use them when I need to. I don't want to think too much about it.
Look, I want to say this as your peer and as your equal, but for what it's worth, I just think it's lovely. I was going to say you don't need my validation, but I'm giving it to you. I just think it's great. It's all good. Did your dad really say be a werewolf? Like when you have bad feelings, run into the woods?
No, but he said those were tags. But he said,
Peter,
said
those were tags.
Those were tags, Pete.
This guy doesn't know
how comedy works is you say the true thing and then they get increasingly more ridiculous, and those are the tags. There's an initial laugh and then you build on it. No, but he did say, he was like, when I feel like this, I just get as far away from people as you can.
He really said that.
He really said that, yeah. Until you feel different. He said a lot of things. He also said, if I weren't a Christian, I'd be in jail. Like, there's just a lot of...
That's a common one for... And it always troubles me. I actually riffed on it the other night. Where I was like, when they're like, what's to stop me from raping and murdering? I'm like...
Yeah, they're like the things I think about. You're like, wow, okay. Yeah. The only thing that's keeping you from that is a book. It's an old book. That doesn't seem like enough.
When Penn Jillette did this podcast, he was like... If the only thing keeping you from those activities is the Bible, you have bigger problems.
Yes.
Like you have something going on. But it's crazy how that's really what makes it a joke or interesting or worth mocking, is how openly people will say that. It's like, if it weren't for hell, I'd be killing people?
Yep.
What?
Yep.
How detached we've come from, you're in that one and I'm in this one, but we're the same.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's scary. But then you're also like, thank God for the Bible, because I didn't know how many fucked up people we were cutting down on with this book, I guess.
Yeah. Boy, I hate to agree with that, but there is something sort of pragmatic about just like, look, that's a weird way to interpret it, but if it's stopping you from killing me.
If that's why I'm alive right now.
I'll happily take it. Well... Our sober, emo eater. Oh, emotional eater.
Emotional eater.
Dave, the show Dave. Breakups, major recurring issue. Therapy, medication, panic, night. I just wrote down night for night terrors.
For night.
We're done with this. That's going to burn.
Thank you so much for watching it. That's so nice of you.
That was very nice. That was real Katie right there.
It's an hour.
I like that we have the fan on you, and both Katie and I are pretty glistening. It's the Sleepy Summer Series.
I did appreciate that.
Yeah.
That was
no question.
Very nice of you.
Couple simple questions, and we'll end. One, what's your deal? No, I'm just kidding. One,
when are you gonna stop?
When are you gonna give it up? Is there anything in your life? It could be a ghost.
Who inspires you?
Oh my God.
Could be a ghost.
I like things that like don't compute, don't make sense. It could be a ghost. It could be you went to a psychic and they told you something. It could be anything supernatural, paranormal, anything you can't explain in that realm. UFO.
I don't think I can explain anything. This is the space conversation again.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I can't explain any of it. I don't know why my hand's doing this.
Yeah, that's right.
It's all of it. Like, are you talking about like an instance that happened that you're like, that's weird?
I mean, this is where...
What a coincidence. Is there meaning?
Well, and I opened the door and it was John F. Kennedy or whatever. like this is where the people unload their ghost stories. This is where people unload. I was on a roof in Brooklyn and I saw a flying Dorito.
Oh, I wish I had one of those.
Nothing like that? No, not even...
No, I used to have dreams about people right before I like started dating them seriously. Like before I really knew them at all, I would have a dream about them and be like, that's weird, this is a random person. And then I'd start dating them. That happened like on like 3, and
Great answer.
Now I'm like, you're bipolar. Like that was probably what that was. You're assigning meaning to, your brain was just grabbing at people in sort of floating around in your subconscious from social media or whatever. But at the time, it wasn't like I've never seen that person before.
I see.
And then I met them and was like, you're from my dream. Like it was people I barely knew that I would have a dream about, and I'd go, that's weird that I had a dream about them. And then we would somehow meet or connect or whatever. And so that was weird, but then I got medicated and that stopped happening. So.
And that's why you never met the love of your life.
And that's
Helio Francisco. Just trying to think of a good name. I like that one. I thought I almost interrupted to say I thought that was a great answer. I also know what you mean. Val was looking at Instagram last night before bed and I went, casting your dreams.
Casting your dreams.
That's what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't do it.
I have never been like a manifest person. Like I don't really think, like I'll do it because I'm a white lady, obviously, just in case. Yeah. But I don't generally. What do you feel about manifesting?
It's a big conversation.
It's a big conversation.
When I'm down, I tend to go like, I should get manifesting. Like if I'm kind of like in an uncertain place in my life.
Yeah.
Real quick, to make it a quick answer, I've had a lot of times in my life where I've met somebody who is exactly what I was picturing, or this thing exactly what I had been like obsessing about and dreaming about and thinking about. Like working with Jed, like really, a lot of people have that feeling, but like I was really like aiming towards it. And I was really aiming towards working with Conan. And both of those things happened in a really interesting way. So I can't discredit it, but I will tell you that I recently, so these past couple months have been sort of slow. I was thinking about what I wanted to have happen. So I made a little vision board. I'd never done a vision board before, but I was like, Ron Funches does it. And one of them was John Hamm and a picture of what the show was about, this TV show I had written. And I was like, John Hamm, I even did some of the things. I would write it down sometimes. I'm like, I'm so happy and grateful that John Hamm loved my script and he is attached to star in it. Just because I was like, even if this doesn't work, I'm still having
you get to enjoy the fantasy.
Time. Exactly.
Yeah.
And then John Hamm texted me and he was like, he did love the script, but he was like, I can't attach it this time. I can't do it. So then it's a weird feeling when my phone will occasionally be like, 1 week ago today, and it's that picture, and I'm like, what do you make of that? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't think it's like a magic always work sort of thing, and I don't even think it's about. I think it's more about finding what I was saying earlier, the flow. I'm open to the flow being making a TV show with John Hamm, but that doesn't mean I'm going to force that into reality. Because if you really stop and think about how many other lives I'd be affecting by my will, I think it's infinite. If you look at the ripples that would, if John Hamm did that for 6 months, and the crew and the writers and the actors, like I'd be affecting a huge portion of humanity. I don't know, because you pointed out we're pattern recognizing machines for sure. But Val and I, when you're in the flow, let's just enjoy this, whether or not it's literally true. But it just feels like that. Like when you're being who you're meant to be, being with who you're meant to be. So in your case, talking to Kelsey, meeting this guy, like synchronicities just kind of show up. Like they happen to us. I mean, like 10 out of 10 crazy synchronicities where like they happen so often. Val and I just share them briefly. We used to write them down, but now we're just like, and remember, he said Al Madrigal, and then later Al Madrigal called me, and he's called me twice in my life or whatever. Things like that.
Things like that.
Like very often we'll be looking for a phrase like toboggan. And then like later that night, we decide to watch something different at night. We watch an old episode of whatever we've never seen before. And they say toboggan like 5 times in it. And we're just like, at this point, we're just like, I don't know. So the way you feel about God is the way I feel about this stuff. I think what we need to do is be humble and open. And like with my John Hamm thing, there's no downside to just being like, hey, I'm game. I'm saying yes to a lot of things. I'm putting out a lot of feelers. You're putting out feelers for this person. Whether or not it happens, like you're doing your part You know what I mean? If this doesn't happen, it's not going to be because of a lack of vision on your part. Because I will say, you do have to see it first. I bet when you were young, you saw the Taylor Tomlinson that you are today, you know, in terms of your career. There was a part of you that could believe it.
There was a part of me, yeah, for sure.
That could believe it.
Yeah.
Maybe even a small part.
Yeah.
And I didn't mean to put that. Maybe you didn't feel that way.
I did, but I just didn't, not with stand-up specifically, because I didn't know how to do that. I didn't know what it was because I was so sheltered. But I did feel that.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like preaching.
Yeah.
But with more F-bombs.
Exactly.
Not too many more. And the final question, I'm still thrilled that you did this. Thank you for coming in.
Oh my God, thank you for having me.
Can you think of a time in your life where you laughed really, really, really hard?
Oh my God, yes, I had one. It's so recent. Okay, yes, I do have one. I'm gonna try to read it. I don't know if I'll be able to read it.
It's a text or something?
Do I have? It's a tweet, and I want to make sure I. Where is it?
It's on the.
Oh my God, I lost my phone. Okay, it's just. What is time? Okay, I also got off of Twitter. So this is Beck on Twitter. It just says BEC. So I guess it's at Beck on Twitter. Every time a new Stranger Things season drops, people are like, we all love Blorpy, the beloved new character. And then a week later, how could they just kill Blorpy like that? Open your eyes. I have sent that tweet to so many people.
Blorpy.
And I still can't read it without laughing. Just how could they just kill Blorpy like that? Open your eyes.
That is. There's a certain breath take away feeling to that joke. I love that joke.
Isn't that nice? It's really fun. That's why I watch Stranger Things, to feel a part of something.
That's so
and that
funny.
tweet was I laughed so hard.
Yes. Did they do that again, Season 4?
Have you not watched it?
Because after you have a baby...
oh, you don't care.
Well, Val didn't... Well, I don't care, and Val didn't want to watch Scary
Oh, yeah,
things.
they did. They did that this
They did
season.
that again?
Yeah.
They
They
can't stop
brought in
doing it.
another Blorpy.
Always a blurpy.
And blorped them right out.
My only Stranger Things bit was the scariest things in Stranger Things is that it's the awkward years.
There are parts of it where you were like, she's getting bullied? Like, is she going to get her period? Like, where's the Demigorgon? Yeah. Like, you are a little bit, like, because they're doing the 80s thing also, but you're like, I don't really care. Like, it could have been shorter. That's my review of this season.
I didn't hear anybody talking about it.
Oh, I feel like everybody.
Oh, were they?
Yeah.
See,
I think
this is it. Val and I are just in a house with a baby.
You really are.
Like,
nobody was talking about it.
You know why? Because I have a bit where I put in whatever show I think everyone's talking about.
And
I was like, I can't do Stranger Things. Nobody's even talking
Stranger
about
Things
that.
is massive. You can absolutely. What were you using instead of Stranger Things?
Well, I would do Stranger Things first 3 seasons. I've been doing the joke for a while. Then I changed it to Ted Lasso, and that was real hot.
Okay.
And then I thought about putting it back to Stranger Things, and now I might.
Stranger Things is it.
It's it.
Yeah.
Was it good? It was okay. Too long? Now we're just talking.
Everyone I talk to is either like, it was the greatest season ever.
Yeah.
Or they're like me where they're like, this feels pretty long. Every episode was an hour and a half long.
Really?
And there were 9, and the last one was 2.5.
I'm going to go ahead and say this. I think it's because I'm 43 and because I have a baby, but like I can't care.
Yeah.
I've started doing what I have a joke about how my mom called Celine Dion Celine Dijon.
Yeah.
It takes me so long to remember the names of like anything.
Yeah.
Like I struggled to find Harrison Ford the other day, and I was like, you know what it is?
You just wrote Gun Guy Star Wars.
Yeah. Hans? Question mark. My daughter, co-regulates. It's something we've sort of talked about without talking about it. Is like in relationships, another person can help you regulate your life. Like they're there with you to help you with your life. And with Leela, I have another brain now. When she says something, like I'm really locked on and listening, and she's saying a lot of kind of nonsense a lot of the time, just saying like booty bomb and stuff. She loves saying booty bomb, but every time she says it, I'm like, what? Oh, a booty bomb. Okay, booty bomb. Yeah. So it's like I have another stream. I have 2 streams of consciousness in my brain, so I'm exhausted. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like I have another brain that I have to listen to as intently as I do to my own brain.
Right.
That's why parents are so tired.
That makes sense.
And also, you don't care about Stranger Things. Like I think about the me that used to play like a video game and was like, where do you get the key to the dungeon? And I was like, I'm trying to find my actual keys. Like, I can't find the key to the dungeon.
That's so funny.
I'm just checking the time. Okay, we're good. T-Tom, whoa, we went
a long
3
time.
hours? 2:35.
Wow. Look at us.
We did it.
We did it.
I'm so glad we did. Did you enjoy it?
I did, yeah. Did you enjoy it?
I did. I really enjoyed it.
I really enjoyed it.
And I was nervous, and we already covered that.
Yeah, I was nervous too.
Have you ever almost died? Sneak it in.
I feel like did we talk about this in the first?
We?
I feel like I almost got murdered in Alaska once.
What?
But yeah, it's not like, I don't want to, I wasn't like in the car. But yeah, I got left at a college after I did a gig. All the kids left and they're like, you're fine, right? I was like, yeah, I called a taxi. And the taxi took like 45 minutes to come. And so I was just sitting there and I was like, I can go back in the building if I have to. But then the building was locked. So I was just there. And there's this guy in a pickup truck who started circling the building I was standing by.
Oh,
and after a few times he went around, he like got out of his car and was like coming at me. And then
what do you mean?
Like just
how fast?
I mean, a very a pretty aggressive walk.
I hate this story.
Yeah, and I think I was like, when you just it's just you're like, well, this is it. Like, there's literally no one here. I can't run anywhere. Like, it's happening right now. And then as he was coming toward me, the taxi showed up. My phone also wasn't working for some reason wherever we were.
Yeah, because we're in a horror movie.
Because we're in a horror movie in Alaska.
Welcome to the gig, Taylor.
Yeah.
You'll notice your phone doesn't work.
I know. And so then the taxi was coming up. And
with the taxi pulled up just in the nick.
Yeah, and as the taxi pulled up, I saw the taxi and he turned and saw it. And then as soon as he saw it, he turned around and ran back to his car and drove away. So if he was like a nice person, he would have been like, oh, good, I was just making sure. Like, that would have been, but he wasn't that. So.
Everyone hates this story.
I know, it's a rough one.
Everyone hates that story.
And then I went back to my hotel room and called my ex-boyfriend, like, thank you so much for always making sure you knew where I was.
Oh my God.
Yeah, this is a rough one. But that happened, that shit happened when you're like young and 21 and doing like weird colleges in like nothing towns. Like, I had people try to break into my hotel rooms at like 2 a.m. and
really?
Yeah, oh yeah, where you'd like call the front desk and be like, why was someone trying to get into my room? Was that a mistake? And they were like, we don't know. And you're like, oh, okay, glad I latched it. Yeah.
You mean the door opened?
Oh yeah, it was
shagunk?
Like, yeah. And
you
it was
got
like
a shagunk?
Oh, multiple times, yeah.
Multiple times shagunk?
Yeah. Which is why now I like stay in safer hotels and stuff. But at the time, you're just staying at the cheapest option in, again, Nowhereville.
Yes.
In between gigs, like in the winter. And you're 21. I'm like very young. I'm by myself. Yeah.
Only this face.
I know.
I don't know it. Because as a parent now, too, I'm just like, I'm dead.
Yep.
Can't.
Yeah.
Dead.
It's very scary.
I'm so glad you're okay.
I'm glad we went out on a high note.
All right. When's the last time you farted accidentally in front of somebody? I'm just kidding. You don't have to.
I haven't in a while. New relationship, so I've been taking a lot of offensive Pepto. You know what I mean? When you take it, you're like, I'm fine, but I'm going to make sure I'm fine.
Yeah. Why aren't girls all over Gas X?
I am. I think they are.
Are they?
I don't know.
That
I am.
explains
Katie?
it.
Yeah.
Really? I thought it was just something with the ovaries absorbed all the farts.
No. We're taking care of that. That's
preemptive Pepto.
Yeah, I take my birth control and my Pepto at the same time.
Do it on the stage.
Should I? Okay.
It's so funny. It's also just like revelatory to me that I'm like, who knew?
Yeah.
I have a joke about when I was working on the last show I was working on, the best part of it was at the end of the day, you'd go in your car and fart. And I tell it to watch people not laugh because it's a fart joke. And I'm like, guys, look, we just have to talk about this. Like, I know it's not like cutting edge, but it's the truest thing I can say.
Yeah.
And it's one of the best feelings in the world.
Yeah. It's really nice. It's relief. It's pure relief.
It's pure relief.
Yeah.
It's solo you time.
Yeah. What's the last thing you did for yourself? Farted alone in my car.
It's like a little trip to Orlando.
It is. Yeah. When I fart, that's what it sounds like. Orlando. It's just that song from Book of Mormon.
Well, Thank you. Watch Look at You on Netflix. And we didn't talk about it, but you have to do a show at some point.
I'd love to do a show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I'll write it.
Oh, you mean a TV show?
Yeah,
I
TV
thought you
show.
meant your show at Largo.
Oh, you'll do my Largo show. Yeah,
That's how
TV
low my
show.
self-esteem is. I was like, oh, you want me to do a show?
Where's the T-Toms
yeah,
TV?
We're trying to get a movie made right now, so we'll see how that goes if
fun.
anything happens. But nothing ever does. So this is.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, it will happen. Manifest.
And John Hamm is attached. Wait, now
We
he's
did
gonna
it.
do it. Now he's gonna do it. I had him in my swirl, but it was for you, not
It was for me.
Orlando. Thank you, Taylor. Would you say keep it crispy?
Keep it crispy.
There it is for the second time. That was awesome. Thank you.
You made it weird. You made it weird.